Hey, good morning, everybody from America. This is the Deep Weeb Podcast, episode 20. Welcome back. Today, we've got a bit of a different subject that we haven't covered on the podcast previously, the idea of josei media. And so I wrote this introduction for this last night, and I realized when I read it over this morning that it kind of sounds like I'm a mad scientist about to get murdered, but here we go. All right, so despite years of claiming to be in touch with the pulse of otaku, it seems I've uncovered certain holes in my knowledge. This became very clear to me when I was trying to pull my wife into the degeneracy known as VNs and was failing to suggest anything that would pique a woman's interest. Now, through countless hours of research, I've begun to uncover what it means to be josei-muke. Naively, I thought this just meant girly girl content, but have been shocked by some of the dark things I've uncovered and felt a duty, nay, a responsibility, to present this information to my listeners so that they may choose, if they so wish, to add a few of these to their collection, helping to further this education for myself and the unwashed masses, aka dudes. I invited two ladies who are going through their own Japanese learning journey to give us a tour of josei-muke content and the impacts on the world. Okay, this is where if we had a live audience, I'm sure we would have a standing ovation. But let's just go ahead and move on from there then. Thank you. So. Two people on the podcast today haven't been on before. Let's give some quick introductions. So our first guest has run the josei-muke club on the Moe Way for years. You've read a bunch of Japanese content. You are constantly given recommendations that I've never heard of. We talked a little bit before this, and you mentioned that you have passed the JLPT N2. We'll go into a little bit more in depth on your story. Alex, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Ken.
Absolutely. And our second guest, Hani, has read a ton of otome visual novels past the N1. Sometimes you draw and play video games. Hani, thank you so much also for not making me interview Alex alone.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
So, all right. So a quick shout out to our patrons. So Carson, appreciate the continued patronage. Remember that you can support the Deep Weeb Podcast on Patreon. Also, join the Discord lounge, Deep Weeb Lounge, that's in the description. We've been having a manga club there, and please do like and subscribe. It does help the channel out. Appreciate it. So let's go ahead and get started. Alex, so how long is it that you've been learning Japanese? Where are you from? Go ahead and get us started. What started you on your Japanese learning journey?
Okay, so I'm from a little known country called Romania. I barely just graduated and I learned Japanese for quite a couple of years. And I wanted to show everyone my little villain arc story with josei-muke. Can you show the slide? Yes,
absolutely.
So I was a little hamster that watched Metante Conan. And at the time, it had an age restriction of 12 and I was 11. So I felt like a badass. And then, next slide. I watched literally everything from 9 days? I don't know how. School days. I actually gave it a 9. I don't know, honey, if you watch it, but it's actually good. I don't know why, but it's good. I love the ending. I think that's a lot about.
I didn't watch it, but I know about it.
It's infamous, but it's actually good. It's miserable, but actually good.
I heard that the last episode is very weird. Apparently, like a lot of crazy things happen.
It was perfect. I loved it. The manga was also very good. So, just to watch this, I watched everything I could find. And then, next slide, please. I watched this anime for the first time, and everything just changed. I don't know if it's for the good or the better, but
what are these ones?
Anime,
yeah.
Sekaiichi Hatsukoi. And it's a very famous because it's very popular and one of the only BL anime you could watch at the time. And I don't know how old I was, but I remember how shy I was when I looked at the two guys kissing for the first time and I didn't understand what was going on. And I was hiding under my pillow just like for embarrassment and just like looking up, hiding. Oh no. But then I would just look up.
So basically diving into Japanese, you started off with what? Just jumping into watching all of this raw? Is that where it started? Or you were watching
I watched it with Romanian subtitles at first, But
Okay.
then everything that I wanted to watch was in English, so I just went and started watching with English titles. And I didn't know English. I barely knew a bit in 8th grade, just barely. And
Mhm.
actually, my English got really, I could read just by watching anime with English titles. And later, I found Manga. If you can just scroll a bit more,
Yeah.
I had my first horseman of the josei-muke era. And I kind of started with shoujo, then got to the ecchi side, which was really weird because the art style is shoujo, that is targeted towards girls, but the content is ecchi, so it was a shock for a little hamster. Then I found my first yandere in that manga, and it changed me forever. It's actually the second main lead of the manga. He's a questionable character, but his actions just blew my mind and my heart. And at this time, I
which
started
one's
just
this?
reading. Yeah.
Sorry, which one was this? The second one there?
Is the Hada Ashi Ibara of Fumekona.
Yeah. Okay. So the second one there. Yeah.
That's
the yandere one that what now?
The first. Yeah, it has a yandere character, and it's amazing. I love it. It's the most quirkiest and silliest and just classic shoujo. But the yandere just changed me. And then I kept reading everything in English too. Yes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, please go on.
So from here out, I just read every day, couple of hours, even at school and so on, just in English. And then I discovered Harada Sensei. And Harada Sensei actually made me fall even deeper in love with manga because she does something amazing with her way of writing and doing like her eye style and how she uses shadows. And yeah, she helped me fall even more in love with this medium. And then we have the visual novel arc where I found Sweet Pool and there was no way back from loving horror BL. And this is the point at where I was like, you may not know KanjiEater, but there were not many BL visual novels that were translated.
You cut out there. There's not many what?
Visual novels, like BL visual novels.
Mm.
You had Sweet Pool, you had Romantic Murder, and a couple of more obscure ones, but not everything that was interesting. So at this point, I decided to try to learn Japanese, but I failed 2 times.
I also failed 2 times, in fact. So don't worry, you're not the only one.
What does failure mean to you in this context, Alex?
So I did hiragana, katakana, and quit.
Okay.
And then it was a guy, I forgot his name. He does has a couple of Japanese books and does video clips online. I tried him. After 2 weeks, I quit. So what happened in 2019 is that I graduated from high school and I had to decide what I should do with my life. And I was like, well, I love Japanese. I want to read all these novels. I want to do all of this stuff. I love Japan. So I decided to go to university and attend an actual Japanese course and get a diploma.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2019, I discovered, I don't know if you know kanji.
What's that?
So I found immersion first by a guy called Marine, has a YouTube channel, and then Matt.
Mm-hmm.
And immersion, it was like the perfect fit because I learned English through reading and watching YouTube videos and so on. So it made so much sense to do the same for Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope the listeners won't ever do this. I did the classic RTK. Do you know the 5,000 one?
5,001. No, is that?
I think it was 3,000 or 5,000.
3. Yeah, I think the third one went through 3,000 of them, somewhere around there.
Yeah,
too many. But yes, keep going.
So I did half, like 1,500, and then Matt put the lazy RTK, and the problem was that it had like 500 kanji.
Yeah.
But only 250 were actually learned by me in the classic RTK, or something, or 1,000, I forgot. So I did half of the classic one and half of the lazy one.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually did Anki with subs to SRS and Tango decks. I don't know if you sub to a service.
Yeah. So if anybody hasn't done those before, it was what? It was like video cards, basically, that like, or you'd put in an anime, it would use the subtitles to make cards from it. And then what, you were just repping those along with some RTK stuff? Or what was that sequence there?
No, I did RTK. I burned myself harder than my university did to me, than my life did. So, that's why you see only 56 hours or something of actually immersion, because I was so burned by just doing kanji.
Yeah.
And then I did the Tango decks. And I took the Death Note deck and I started learning with Morphon. And what Morphon does is it has a database of how many words you know as morphs. And then it reorders the cards. So you only have sentences that are just one unknown word. So I'll just grab the Death Note deck. And let me tell you, when I watch Death Note, it feels like I'm listening to the past self, like my past life. Like I knew this anime for a long time. I watched like 5 or 6 times, so that's something. So I mostly started with Anki and all this shenanigans. And then in 2020, just from the data, I did listening because at the time, the consensus was just listen more and then read. So I did mostly watch anime with subtitles in Japanese, and you had a couple of systems where they would just copy the subtitles and you can just use Yomi-chan or anything to find the words.
And you're talking Japanese subtitles here, right?
Yes, Japanese subtitles. Only Japanese subtitles. I never touched English subtitles while watching anime when I started learning Japanese.
Gotcha.
So I watched a lot of stuff, and I actually started trying to journal what I've done.
Right. This is one of the first time we've had this many visual artifacts on the podcast. So thank you for putting so much work into this. Yeah, step us through. Like, what are some of the major milestones here?
You know what's really interesting is that I took the GLPTN2 after a couple of years, and I passed the GLPT because my listening score was almost 910. Not the reading score. And most probably because I started with a lot of listening, and then the next year I followed with a lot of reading. The listening might have saved me, but I just, in this sense, I just did what was the consensus at the time in what communities I was. So at the time was Nuke Mariam and MatPat. They had the Morphman idea, the just listen with Japanese subtitles idea. I don't know if it was that bad or just the best course of actions.
Which community was this that you were a part of at that time? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
I was in the Nigmari one, the Discord, where they updated about Anki and Morphman. And I also was in the MatPat one before I found them way away. And I joined
the which one? The Matt one? The Matt versus Japan?
I'm sorry, his name is Matt. Yeah, Matt versus Japan. I keep
Gotcha. No.
Okay.
All good. Okay, so you were in the Matt versus Japan Discord. The consensus was do listening, then do more reading. So you were focusing on listening up through this point. Okay. Yeah. So then from there, where were you headed?
So I tried to do visual novel readings, but it wasn't that bad. So I joined the Moya Way, and if you can go to the next year, the idea changed a lot from listening to reading, and it made much more sense for me because I just wanted to read visual novels, but it was hard when you don't have vocabulary, you don't have grammar. And a second. So I actually finished my first bad boy, like big boy visual novel called Nor 9. And I started reading like half of it, gave up. And when I returned, I could read it, and it was so enchanting. I binged it. And it was an awesome feeling to actually read a visual novel and like it. And I couldn't hook it because reasons it's on PSP. So I was actually using like OCR functions to search the words.
That's a painful method, but yes. Yeah.
Every single screen I was searching. And then at the time, people started making a lot of like programs so you could read faster with visual novels. So we hooking them and so on, just with Yomi-chan, mining in Anki. And that's why you see a very big shift in the visual novel category. And what happened in the moment was that I was a bit scared because I never saw someone read BL or anything jose in the other Discord servers. I never knew you could really do that, you know. But then I saw someone post a screenshot in the BN club of a BL, and I was like, wait, my people are here. This is good. And I just camped the server, and then I started doing VC. And what happened that kind of saved me was that they created a josei-muke club.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I was, oh my God, this is my place. I am free right now. There are people who enjoy the same stuff as I do. Because it feels weird, but if you look at the materials they were at that time, like pre-made decks, everything else, it was an even list on difficulty levels. It was just josei-muke.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hard to try yourself to find out how hard a visual novel is or an anime is. You had to just try it yourself again and again and again to find something you could watch.
Right.
Or read. So that was very challenging. You barely had anything josei-muke related that you could attach to.
So, and, I mean, basically all the resources you were saying were basically just what? Yeah. Standard, like what sort of things would you see at that point if like you would be asking for a recommendation, like Mushoku Tensei, like basic stuff like that, and it's more of like
the manga novels. I think the manga novels are a bit more recent, but people had the VN recommendations, and it was just the classical a guy and multiple girls rom-com types of stuff, what ecchi, and I was never interested. It was just boring. I couldn't read it even I wanted to, because people recommended because they had it on certain levels,
right?
And it might have helped you, but it was just so boring. I couldn't do anything.
Yeah, I'll just say when I started looking for visual novels, like I wasn't interested in like romance topics at all. So I definitely see it from. It just didn't appeal to me. So I had to find other things to kind of rip onto that, and so I definitely relate to like I'm not really the target demographic, but I mean I managed to stomach it and find like a lot of stuff that I ended up liking. But finding the right audience, you know, something that's targeted towards you, definitely it just resonates more, right?
Yeah, it does. And the problem is, if it's not interesting for me, I cannot do anything. I actually cannot do anything. So I had to just try my best with more fun. In more fun, you can actually try to analyze and find the difficulty level.
Right.
And you know what novels on the internet?
Mm-hmm.
There are certain sites you can have web novels, and I will download them and analyze them with Morphman and try to form like a
study plan of some
list
sort,
from easiest to hardest based on my known words from Morphman. So you had to go do a lot of roundabouts if you wanted to do something in this aspect.
I remember having, I definitely played around with data a lot to try to like just make sure I didn't get steamrolled, because I had some bad experiences early on where it's like I was really interested in something, but it was just way beyond my level. And I usually when I start something, I don't admit that. So it's like I just power through it. But yeah, especially at that point, it seemed like Morphan was kind of the standard. Figure out a way to optimize your study plan, go with that. And I guess eventually we'll get to what happened with that. But Jama did ask in the chat, why is he on this slide?
Because if you, I don't know if I can just try to zoom it in. I don't think it'll show, but that's the date and the time the first message in the josei-muke club was sent.
Okay, well, there you go. You made some history there, Jama. That's why you were in there.
Yes, they made history. This is what I feel, and I'm really grateful for that.
So how many? So you got through quite a handful of visual novels. You also had your time written down for them. Like when you were reading through these visual novels, were you one of those people that like you'd complete every single route in it to like completely max it out, or would you just pick and choose the ones you wanted? What was your? So some people tackle VNs in different ways.
So myself, at first I was a completionist. So what you see here, if it's not dropped, I read everything. If I liked it, for example, Omega Vampire, I read even the item description. I read everything. Kengaki
oh my gosh.
I read everything. I have Dojinshi bought from convention in Niigata with no, it was book off or something. I felt like from conventions I have them in here. So if I love something, I read everything if possible. Nowadays, I'll try because I feel I don't have time with work and so on. I pick and choose what I read more. But before, if it was interesting, I would read every route because I was a completionist and I was so hungry for josei-muke content in Japanese and for something that's really interesting that I would just do anything. Even for Shingako, I read everything in Shingako.
I remember you reading through all the extra stuff too. I was I was kind of blown away. Well, Hani, when you read stuff, do you read through every single route, no matter what?
Yes, basically that's what I do. Especially at the beginning, I really told myself that I did not want to start something new when I've already started something. But then eventually that kind of fizzled out. Sometimes I was like, oh, I really hate this. There's some games I really did not like. So then I just was like, whatever. It's better to read. So, if it gets me to read, then I should read something else.
Yeah, I would say like 90%, maybe 95% of the visual novels I read, I just forced myself to get through all of them. But at least a couple of them, I was like, this is just too repetitive, or there's just like something broken about repeating it. I was like, I'll probably burn out on Japanese before I get through this one. So there's too much good content out there. So at least on this slide, Alex, was there anything else you wanted to touch on before we go to the next one?
Actually, I want to ask you a question because
please.
Are you the type of person who reads just one visual novel till you finish it, or just start 5?
Which one are you?
Because I didn't screenshot it, but I have other 20 that I started and have yet to finish. And I have yet to finish the Shingako extras. So I have like 20, 20 that I am starting, pausing, going back and forth.
So personally, I'm definitely, for visual novels, I force myself to just get through one of them. Otherwise, I'd never get through it completely. And it just kind of sticks out there. Like I've done this with video games where I'll like start a handful of them and then just finish none of them. And I find that to be like overall like really unsatisfactory is kind of where I landed with it. So at least with visual novels, I try to finish everything. Manga, I'm the opposite. I'll just start like a million things, put it on hold for a year, wait for a couple chapters to catch up or something like that. For whatever reason, it's a completely different mindset when it comes to manga. But at least with visual novels, it's like, all right, this is the one for this month. I have to get it done this month. That was probably due to being really active in a club. And then they put that, so you can get virtual points online. Like you got to finish it within this time if you want. And so that was a really big motivator for me to just be like, no, I'm just going to power through, get through it. And I know a lot of people also are like constantly go on about like, you have to make sure you're having fun and like that sort of thing. In general, this is true, but at least with a couple of them, I was just like, nah, I'm doing this for the points. It will be more satisfactory to just get through it than to have fun with like, I need to take a 3-month break from this one and come back to it when it's fresh with me again. I was like, no, I'm just going to grind through it. So my mentality was a little bit different at certain points, but that's kind of where I was at with that.
Yeah, I actually have a concrete example of this. I believe it was around 2 years ago. We were reading Remures no Gazeniji in the josei-muke server.
No idea what that is. Keep going.
It's a VN. It's a really good one. But the thing was, I really enjoyed it as I was reading it, but I saw that the month was ending, and I thought I was not going to get points if I didn't finish on time. So I was reading really fast. I was reading, I think, 50,000 characters a day, which was a lot for me at the time. And then at the very last minute, I was like, hey, can I get my points? I was like, just a couple of minutes before midnight, something like that. And then I remember Alex then wrote back to me, yeah, sure, you can get your points. And then she also wrote, by the way, it is fine if you don't get it on time. Like, you still get the points for past picks. And I was like, oh, okay, this is for nothing.
So you grinded it through it at a lightning pace, and then Alex told you, oh, yeah, you could. We would have still been here either way. Nice.
Yeah.
So continuing on with Alex's story, what happened in 2022? Is that where we were at with this?
Yes. So at the time, I was missing a lot. So he talked about receiving points in just in in the Moe way, you have a similar systems where you read, you do a lot of immersion, and you receive points. And to keep myself immersing, I don't know how to pronounce English, to read more, I would just screen share what I was reading. And I kept meeting people. I met friends in the Moe way, and I met quite smart people in there. And that's when I broke up with Morphman, and I actually started mining cards by myself. And that was so much more better when you have a relation to the word. Because Morphman picks you random words, but when you actually see a word yourself 5 times and it just pisses you off and you put it in Anki, it's so much more different.
It is.
And actually, Anki helped me a lot learning Japanese. I don't think I would have gotten so far without Anki, even if I didn't do it the most efficient way. But what happened was that I managed to get 1 year in Japan to study. And I think I lost my 1,000 day streak on the time shift to Japan. And that's when I quit Anki. I don't know if I cried or not, but I felt so sad.
So that was on your flight over to Japan? Like
to Japan, yeah.
Yeah, I had something similar happen with me as well. But how long were you in Japan? Or it was just a vacation? Or?
No, it was school. Started in September and it carried over to the 2023. And actually, they came in. It's the first thing I saw when I got in the airport. And I almost tripped over my baggages because I saw him and I was so in love.
I have no idea who that is.
I don't know. He was Ikemeni. He called me Hime-sama. So I just like, oh, I'm in Japan now. I almost tripped.
Weird. So
and what?
Okay.
Yeah.
So you broke up with Morphman. You broke up with Anki. Yes. You found this new guy. Then what happened?
So I actually started making friends in Japan and interacting with Japanese people. And what happened was that I forced myself to understand my courses in Japanese. My friends, they were speaking in Japanese. So that's when my listening just went boom. And I tried to output, and I was very bad. I couldn't say more than my name is. Please believe me, I couldn't say more than my name is in Japanese. It took me...
This is on a foundation of, you've read, what, how many visual novels probably at this point? You've like 10 or so, it looked like on that last slide. And you've done at least a decent quantity of listening at this point, but still the actual output just wasn't there yet.
I didn't output. I only outputted it in my Japanese courses at university or sometimes, but I never output. I just did immersion because this was on the other consensus that I heard at the time, and I just kept it because that's all I did in English too. I just read and listened because I didn't have anybody to talk to, and I started speaking and writing later in English too. So, what happened with moving to Japan? It was like a mind shift in that instead of just listening and understanding, I had to process the Japanese and use it. I don't know if you experimented this. When you actually need Japanese and it changes your brain in a certain way. So at first I couldn't.
The transition between basically just doing all input to actually doing output, is it completely changed the way your brain was working around the content?
Yes.
I totally experienced that at the beginning of this year because I was like, I had also been really slacking on actually doing active output, and it definitely changed how I was consuming the language in order to output with the language. So yes, I 100% experienced that.
Another very interesting thing was that when I was speaking with my friends and so on, and when the dorm, there was a lady who took care of the dorm, and I was talking to her. And she said, Alex, when you speak Japanese, you don't sound like a learner because you use so many weird words, but you don't know simple words. Because usually people who learn to textbooks, they have a certain pattern.
Right.
Then us who try immersion and just learn random words that we need, or you just find along the way. Our speech is very, very different. And the way you actually process information in Japanese too.
So do you think that you look back on that as a good thing, as a bad thing, pros and cons to it. Like, what's your reflection on that now? Are you glad you took that route?
Oh, yeah, I did, because instead of reading textbooks, I looked at pretty boys on the screen for 8 hours a day sometimes. I mean, I would just be reading romance books and having fun instead of doing it. I don't like doing exercises. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I just prefer to look at cute boys.
Better than Anki. What about Anki with cute boys on it? Would that be a selling point?
Yes. So that happened in 2024 or something.
Okay.
There was a
So
renaissance of Anki again.
Okay, we'll get there. We'll get there. No spoilers. No spoilers, please. All right. So I guess we're back. We're on 2023 now.
Yeah. So till August, I was still in Japan. I was living the life. Of course, I quit Anki. Again, a lot of listening, because I was just, you also reading. You just go outside, you read anything. You have to read. You go outside, you have to listen to them. I have to understand your profession. You have to speak to your friends. You have to understand what they are organizing, when to go to the karaoke. So there was a very important part of my life to understand when the karaoke is and when I should be there. And I made also friends. And also started, I don't know if you see there's 150 volumes of manga, and everything was read paperback. And it's amazing to read manga paperback. It changes the way you read, because if you read this novel so far, you will just hook it and use Yomi-chan. You just use Yomi-chan for any word you don't know. But in manga, you have to type it, write it in the phone, or use OCR.
Right.
So it's a hassle.
Yep.
So what happened was that the first 20, 30 volumes were very hard to read.
Yep.
But then after that, it got so much smoother to read text in general, because it was a hassle to search words all the time. So my brain started understanding, okay, this word is important, let's remember it. And this cycle keep repeating, and my reading got actually improved very on a very fast pace too. Also, my speaking, I can speak, but I'm not very smooth or fluent, but I can get by. Like I can survive in Japan for sure, but I cannot get any boyfriend, if that helps to the discussion. I tried, but no, nothing caught on. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I would definitely say I agree with your experience there. Like I've seen similar stuff myself when I read manga. I do have paperback stuff. I've read a handful of paperback stuff. I usually do just read on like a tablet though, but still I'm not using like what Mokuro or something like that, where it's already been pre-OCR'd or something like that. It's just a little bit too inconvenient for me. And where I'm at right now, it's like I can probably just pick out plenty of series to just read where I don't have to look anything up, and that's probably the best path forward for me when it like comes to manga. However, there are some times that I still read on the computer with manga, and then I might like look up more stuff, or I might choose to read something that's more difficult with manga. There's a new one called Yomi Ninja that I've actually really been liking, specifically for that use case of just highlighting stuff immediately in there. It kind of highlights it dynamically. I don't have to like pre-process anything like I would with Mokuro. So that's been convenient for me. That's still how I read manga. But the idea that there's some content that you're always going to be looking up a ton of stuff in, probably, or you allow yourself to look up more stuff in, versus the content that it's like, I'm just not going to look up anything because it's not convenient enough. I think striking that balance has been an important thing for me along that journey as well. So I kind of resonate with your experience there. As far as 2023, were there any other points that you had for this one, Alex? Making friends?
No, mostly
reading paperback. Those immersion hours paperback. Up. A lot of listening still. So at this point, like, what sort of listening are you doing?
So I had courses, and sometimes I will have like 4 or more courses every day, depending on how much I did. Also, I will just run around the town. I'll hang out with my friends. So these hours add up. And the thing is, I will just approximate at the end of the day how much I did.
Sure.
But I could have done even more than that. Because everything is in Japanese. You go to the convenience, you have to listen to Japanese. Or I will just go to museums and listen to everything that happened there. Like they have audio recordings too. So I include everything that was there. So it might have been even more than that, actually.
And the courses that you're talking about here are towards whatever career, are like, are these Japanese language courses, or are these actually like career driven sort of courses?
So I was on the Japanese culture and language program, and
Okay.
I also had courses in English about Japan, but I had
Mhm.
some courses in Japanese too, like
Mhm.
reading poetry, waka and stuff, just doing crazy stuff. And it was interesting because most of my colleagues were Korean, Chinese.
Mm.
I was not reading the courses where the foreigners were. I had classes with foreigners too, like from Europe and America, but uh, most of them were a bit more higher level. They tended to be Chinese and Korean, so it was very interesting to gossip the Chinese girls because I like Chinese BL and I could actually find friends there. So there was something interesting there.
I'll just
But yeah, I
interject
had
real
a
quick.
mixture.
Jama says he thought that reading VNs would teach you how to find a boyfriend. It sounds like he's a little disappointed that process didn't work for you.
I got Nampa once.
Really?
Yes. So I was, Suzume no Tojimari?
I don't think so.
I watched it. I watched the movie. I was returning home and I was so happy. I was so happy. And I saw two guys camping, and one of them came after me and said like, hey, got it. And the problem was his English was so bad, I couldn't understand what he was saying.
Mm.
So I couldn't get Nampa properly because I couldn't understand the guy's English, And you know what's even worse? At the bars, izakayas, there are people outside that invite you in. If you were alone, nobody would invite you. If you had a Japanese, they might call you out. But otherwise, you had nobody call you out because you look at you and you're a foreigner and you don't understand Japanese. So my chances of finding someone are very low. Even if I could understand them and speak to them, I couldn't. I didn't manage to do it.
Well,
I'm so sorry.
hopefully at some point there's a redemption arc here, like maybe in the future. It doesn't have to be this time on the podcast, Alex, but we'll be waiting. So 2024, that's this year. What was going on?
Yes. So I had my heart broken by Japan because I had to leave. I only had 1 year in there. And after leaving, I felt pretty heartbroken. I missed Romania, and at the same time, I missed Japan. And I had to struggle because I had to graduate and do my thesis and everything, and actually find a job and stuff.
Mhm.
So I thought I didn't immerse that much, but apparently I did quite a bit. And one thing that I like, KanjiEater, you actually interviewed Doth
Yes.
a long time ago.
Yeah,
And
it was
I
a long
watched
time
that
ago.
podcast.
Okay.
I looked at him. I looked at his data and I was like, okay, this guy read like over 20 million to get to N1. Okay, I'll try to do the same.
Mhm.
So I also showcased the overall data, hours and so on, and how many characters I have. And if you count stuff that I did not register in my spreadsheet, I have close to 20 million, but I'm not sure if I can take the N1. I feel close, but yes.
I don't remember how many hours Doth had. I thought it was like 1,500. I could be way off. How much was it?
Over 3,000.
It was over 3,000. Okay, maybe it was Jazzy. That was way less. But anyways, I remember trying to take a practice test after Jazzy, and I was like, I still can't pass, and I have way more hours than them. So it does seem like people just tend to absorb things at a little bit different rate. So yeah, it's all still relative. Unfortunately, we can't say, oh, it takes every person this many hours, and it's not that clean of a formula, I guess, is where I'm going with that. But you feel like you're getting closer, Alex?
Yes, at the level I'm right now, I have read over 20 million. How many hours I have listening? I have probably a lot. It's not as much as in English, but if I pick up let me pick up a normal light novel that I have. So if I just pick it up, this isekai child with children, a very cute light novel, I can just open it and start reading. It's gonna be a bit harder because there are gonna be some sentences I don't understand or words that I don't really get it, but I can just move on and I can understand the story. Not all the nuances and implications, but I can just read it, understand it, and enjoy it. So I think I'm quite a good place. I wish I could be better to be able to read this ire, but I'm not that good. But I can read
Would something like that even appeal to you?
You know the sequel to DSire?
What's that?
I forgot it. There's a sequel to that visual novel DSire. And when I was
I know it as the abbreviation, which is like triple K or something like that.
Yeah. So I was at the BC talking to someone in the Moya Way. And I told him that I watched BL and I like it. And he said, the sequel to DSire has really pretty boys. And he started shilling that one so hard. And I was like, is this in my time to read joseimuke, to read this for the guys? And the guys look really cute. And he kept shilling this. And that's one of my
making
goals.
you a believer. Okay.
Yes, he made me a believer.
Okay.
Because cute boys.
I also want to read that one because Doth was chilling it pretty hard. So maybe at some point we'll have some crossover there because I also haven't read DSRI yet. So we'll get there together. Okay, Alex. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, sounds like we're all about to start it then. All right. So 2024. Any other final thoughts on the Japanese journey so far at this point, Alex? That sum it up.
Mostly, it's fine if you take it a bit slow. Because you'll get there. I got there. It was slow. It was about the burnout, but I got here. So just believe it and do it. Try to do it every day. You'll get there.
Yep, absolutely. So, Hani, let's go ahead and transition over to you. So, who are you? Where are you from? And then let's go ahead and jump into your Japanese journey as well.
Yeah, sure. So I go by the name Hani on the internet. I'm 23 years old and I live in Germany. Yeah. I guess I should say that I'm a digital artist.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. How old were you when you started learning Japanese?
Oh, it was at the end of 2020. So at least, to be fair, I also had 2 failed attempts. One in 2015, another one in 2019. I was a teenager at that time. But now that I started, I was 18 years old. Yeah. No, 19. Yeah.
So you started at that point, and then what did starting look like? Well, would you like to cover the failures first? That might be interesting.
Yeah, sure. So in 2015, I was 13, 14 years old. So I just wanted to learn Japanese to watch anime without subtitles. But I was not motivated enough to actually do it. So I learned hiragana, katakana, just like Alex, and then I quit. But at the very least, story. Yeah, it's true. But at least it stuck with me. So in 2020, when I started again, I at least still knew the kana. I never forgot that, but I never got past that. So it wasn't much of a use, I guess.
Right.
But yeah. So then I had another attempt in around 2019, I believe. I tried, I'm not sure if it was RTK or RRTK. It was probably RRTK. So recognition RTK. Mm-hmm. I got to around 100 kanji really fast. I think I was doing 25 a day. And then I stopped.
That's a breakneck pace. 25.
Yeah. I was just burned out and I just didn't know what I was doing. And then it just kind of fizzled out. And yeah.
So you started with the RTK stuff. It fizzled out. Do you know how far you actually got into it? How deep into the RTK rabbit hole did you go?
I believe it was around 100 kanji back then in 2019. But then I picked it up again in 2020 and I started again. Yeah.
So I guess just real quick on the topic of RTK, what if somebody was new coming into learning Japanese? Would you guys still recommend it based on your experiences with it, having done more reading now? Is there a different way? Basically, is that still the go-to way to learn kanji for both of you? I guess first, go ahead, Hani.
I'm not sure if I could say that's the most efficient way, or a proper way. But I will say that it did help me in 2020 when I started this journey up until today. I kind of did 800, I believe. Okay. And I did them also pretty fast, I think 25 a day. But the only reason, to be fair, I went in with the right mindset, I'd say. My mindset was not really that I'm learning Japanese, but rather just that I'm trying to get familiar with kanji, because at the beginning, when I started reading, or at least trying to, kanji just looked very intimidating. I could barely tell them apart. Some looked the exact same to me back then. So just getting through a couple, well, maybe a couple hundred was too much. I'm not sure. I don't know. But I didn't do them all. I just wanted to just have a very rough base to just feel somewhat familiar with kanji. And I feel it definitely helped with that. That when I jumped into my first visual novel, I just kind of felt like, I started to look up the words, of course. I didn't feel like, wow, I know Japanese now, but it just gave me a bit of familiarity. I don't know.
It lowers the barrier to entry. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. Right. Yeah. And Alex, what about you? Well, what's your reflection on getting over the intimidation of kanji?
Well, if you are from a Latin language or one that uses the Latin alphabet, you should start with radicals first, because kanji are made by radicals. You learn the rules of how kanji are formed, and then you just power through the most common 500, 100. Depends on what deck is popular right now and most efficient. Mm-hmm. At the time, it was like 2,000, 3,000, whatever it was, and then it was the lazy one. So just get the most that everyone says is the most efficient, and just load the 500, 1,000, and try not to burn yourself out. Because if your language doesn't have characters, your mind won't understand what these scribbles are. Right. So doing this type of Anki deck might actually help you try to get your brain to know that this is important. I have to learn this. I have to recognize this. Yeah, it's a bit of a pain. But
yes. I basically where I'm at with it is I've seen a lot of people for that exact reason. Like, in order to get over the intimidation factor, it seems like it's useful for that. It seems like at least some of the people who manage to get good quickly have managed to just skip that part of the process by just powering through reading. But I think it does make that part a little bit more painful at the start. But also that's like almost everything in the language learning journey. I feel like until you just force yourself to start like just brute force, like I'm going to try to understand it a little bit more today. Eventually they do start to sink in. That at this point, I don't know that I would recommend anybody actually do RTK, even though I've done it myself. And maybe that's why it's like I can reflect on that. I've seen other people that have not had to do that. And for the same reason both of you mentioned, it's really easy to burn out when you start doing like RTK or Wanikani or something like that. Because it's not really why any of us are learning the language, right? Like, we don't just want to learn kanji, most of us. We also probably want to see it in context of words and those sorts of things. So it just seems like reading might be the smoother process. But I don't think anybody can deny that you can still get benefits. I think the science is still out on whether or not it's the most efficient way there, though. Any final comments on that?
The middle ground will be most probably just radicals. Yeah. Just do a deck for radicals, and then you can start reading and figure out how radicals work in the kanji you see while reading. I think this is a kind of a middle ground there.
Sure. So, Hani, back to your story. So you started off with some RTK stuff. Then what? Like, where did you go from there?
So that is when I started looking into communities, sort of. And I also started watching YouTube. I, came to know Metaverse Japan, of course. And then I got familiar with the concept of immersion or input learning, or, the several names people have. But yeah, then I thought, this sounds really good. This makes sense, in my opinion. I also kind of learned English by just watching a lot of YouTube. So, I thought this might work as well. So, I started looking into various communities. The first one I joined, I'm not sure if you know it. It's called Mini Immersion.
What's it called?
Mini Immersion. Like small
Mini immersion. Okay. No, completely unfamiliar. What's this?
Yeah, it is mostly advertised on Instagram, and it is a much more like, how do I say it? The place is much more chill. It's not like a lot of hardcore learning spaces. It's rather like, I don't know, people just kind of do want to learn Japanese and through immersion, but without all the, crazy crunching, grind set kind of.
Yes, I do know what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, so I first joined that. That was very interesting. But eventually I noticed that I was more eager than like other people. And I realized actually I do want to do more. So that is when I looked at other places, and eventually I joined the Norway. And that was mostly my main community, I'd say. Yeah.
Okay. And so joining a community, like were there anything in particular that you did there that helped? Any like what sort of experience was that joining a community? Like what impact did that have on you?
Well, first of all, it really motivated me. It was really nice to see that I'm not the only one learning Japanese. Well, of course, it's a lot, but this is a much more unconventional method than what you always see. You always think you learn a language by picking up textbooks and going through them and whatnot. So seeing that there's other people who are also doing this different approach was very reassuring. And of course, all the success stories. You have people like Dorth and later on Jazzy, who are just incredible. And it really just motivated me. I didn't think I was going to be like them exactly, but I thought if they can do it like in such a short amount of time, I could do it in a bit of a longer amount of time, but I could do it too,
Right.
But what ended up happening is that I did pass in 1 and 2 years. So,
That's great.
I actually, at the beginning, I thought I was going to reach N3 in 2 years, but ended up being N1. So it's definitely possible. And it doesn't take a genius. Yeah, it really does not take a genius to learn Japanese and, go on this journey. It's just putting in the effort, really. Yeah.
So consistency, is that what you say? Were you extremely consistent? Was that the thing that kind of got you through this, or what's the major factor there that got you to that N1?
Yeah, definitely consistency. Just the fact that I never stopped. It was not always easy. Sometimes I was like, oh man, I'd really not do it right now. Reading something that is harder. But I still enjoyed it, somewhere. These visual novels are fun. I was reading them because I wanted to. So I did. And just being consistent with it, was really a huge help for sure.
So do we want to go ahead and get into your part of the journey towards VNs now? Like what was on the pathway there?
Right. Okay, so this is kind of my life story a little bit.
Yeah,
it started with, shonen anime when I was around 6, 7. I really loved One Piece especially, but I also watched Dragon Ball, Pokemon, stuff like that. Then later on, when I was 13, 14, I started getting into other kinds of anime. I was just watching everything on YouTube. I already talked to Alex about it earlier, stuff like Rosario the Vampire, just anything really I could get my hands on. And that's when I discovered reverse harem anime. Great intro to that. It's just, I don't know, and it really spoke to me. I really enjoyed those. So, I just wanted more of that, really. So I looked into the Play Store and I found mobile games, which are basically, already otome games, but they were mobile ones and for free, because I was 13, 14, I couldn't afford, to buy all these fancy console games. So I had to play those. And, quality-wise, they're not the best. It did kind of, it was fine for a couple of years. But then I got a bit older, and then I really wanted to play the better ones. So I started looking at the console games, as you can see. But of course, first I started with the English ones. Those were available to me at the time. I didn't know Japanese back then. So I played those, but there were just a few. Nowadays, there's really way, way more on the market. But back then, there were really not that many. I played games like Amnesia, Café Enchanté, Color Mellows, and Code Realized in English. And that's when I really realized that if I want to play more of those really high quality, fancy console otome games, then I would need to learn Japanese. So that's how I got into Japanese learning.
So the otome games is what made you do it. Gotcha.
Definitely, yeah.
And so now it looks like you're neck deep into it. Maybe even too far, some might say, Hani.
Yeah, I tried adding some of the games that I played. I wanted to display all of them, but they would not fit. So those are just
good problem to have.
some of them. Yeah.
So,
Right,
any of these that you want to speak to?
Sure, I'd like to talk about them chronologically. Don't worry, not all of them.
Okay.
Just to give a general overview over the years. So at the start of 2021, January, that is when I started reading VNs in Japanese. I started with, Brothers Conflict, because it was one that I had watched the anime of. I see Alex is laughing. Right, so I watched the anime of it when I was like 13, 14. I really loved it, so I really wanted to play the VN as well, the source material. So I did, and I was able to, which was really crazy because I had only started learning Japanese 2-3 months prior without the failed attempts.
Really?
So
So 2 or 3 months in, you were already reading visual novels.
Yes, extremely early. I was so impatient. I don't know if it was really a good idea. But I went through, in those 2-3 months leading up to January 2021, so starting from October 2020, that's when I started learning Japanese again. I went through Genki 1, the entire book, and halfway through Genki 2. It was not the perfect base, but it was okay. You definitely need a base, of course, with 0 words, you cannot go into anything. But I knew some basic grammar thanks to Genki and a couple words, I guess. Then I also did the JLPTN for Tango, but I think I did that later when I had already started reading Brothers Conflict. I was just really learning a lot of words at the same time. And what's very interesting is that Brothers Conflict is extremely easy in terms of difficulty, but I was really struggling at the beginning. It was extremely hard for me, but of course to be expected. But I could read it, and that was just the biggest motivator, the fact that I had the game in front of me on my Switch, and I could read it. Wait a second, I actually have the game. Maybe I can show it.
So
I have so many physical games.
Which one is this on your little diagram here? Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah. So that's one of the easier ones that you would probably recommend people starting with, it sounds like.
Definitely, it's great. But it has a lot of love interests, 13, I believe. So it takes, and they're your stepbrothers. So that's it's for particular.
You have 13 stepbrothers. Oh my gosh.
Yes, exactly.
Welcome.
I'm just thinking about in the future, when I have some somebody already mentioned Kamada or somebody like that, where they're going to say something to the effect of, "Oh yeah, harem anime. It really spoke to me."
It does. Please believe us. It does.
Yeah. Okay.
It keeps us burning,
So, yes, absolutely.
It's great.
So, are any other ones that you wanted to call out here, Hani, before we keep moving on?
Yeah, sure. So the first VN that I fully finished was Nekobara Catboy's Paradise. But it's the one on the bottom left. Yeah.
Yes.
But the thing is, I wouldn't call it a full-fledged VN because it's very short. It's like a demo almost. The first one that I actually finished was Kamigami no Asobi. It's the one on the top left, the very top left,
this one.
The yellow.
Okay.
Yeah. That one deals with mythology, various mythologies. It's really nice. I recommend it. It's not a masterpiece at all, but it's kind of mediocre, but I still liked it. Not everything needs to be a masterpiece, in my opinion. It was very fun, and it was the first I finished. And it took me 3 months to play, and it took me 269 hours. Yeah,
really,
that is a lot for. It's not
longer
that long,
than I played any VN for. Yes, I think mine's 200 or so on. I think around that for. Ayakashi Bito was the one that I played that was maybe around 200, and then Tsukihime was around that. Muramasa was probably around that, but it's 269 is that's a long time, Hani.
For sure, and it's not even that long in general. A native would play that in maybe 20 hours.
Yeah.
So you can just see that like I had a lot of determination. I really just wanted to do it, and I had a lot of fun. And so even with not that great of a base, I was still able to just push through. I mined 1,000 words from it.
Wow, that's awesome.
Sentence mining, yeah. And that was really where I just really realized I can do anything. And from then on, I just started reading just anything I could get my hands on that looked interesting. And
any major standouts from there after you kind of grinded through that one?
Not really. I mean, I guess later on I started getting into the josei-muke epics, the VNs that we were reading together, like, for example, Remresbu no Gazeniji, or Shei no Sonaniru, or Eva Maiden. These are really great. So, like, if any one of you wants to have great josei-muke VNs to read, I definitely recommend going into the josei-muke channel and seeing what they have, because they're really great. Okay, so again, I was detailing how I was reading a lot of VNs, and I was really reading almost daily for many hours, and I often got to 100 hours a month, and overall I got to over 2,000 hours for sure, but I don't know how much, because I eventually stopped tracking. And as you can see right now, my Anki is not looking great. I haven't touched it in a while. So currently there's an interesting thing going on. So I just started getting into video games instead. It started with Baldur's Gate 3, and I realized, holy shit, video games are great. And then I got into Dragon's Dogma, the first game from 2012. It's a masterpiece. And now I'm playing Monster Hunter Rise, and I'm thinking of playing Divinity. And, it's just, there's a lot going on, and I don't have a lot of time for visual novels anymore. Yeah.
So are you playing these games in Japanese, and have you given up on that aspect? Like, where are you at with that?
Well, it depends. Like for immersion reasons, I really wanted to play Dragon's Dogma in English, because it takes place in medieval Europe. But now I'm playing Monster Hunter Rise, and that one I'm playing in Japanese. So it just kind of depends, Yeah, so there's definitely still Japanese in my life. Sometimes I still also read Japanese fan fictions, just anything that I feel like reading. But it's just not dedicated reading anymore. It's not, I'm trying to like get better at the language, so I'm, reading a lot and making sure I get all these hours in, and doing my Anki raps and whatnot.
Excellent. So, all right. So thank you both of you for sharing those stories. Now we have a couple community questions, as well as we've talked about a couple terms quite a bit already. But it would probably benefit our audience to kind of define out what some of these things are. So, what are some common terms that people should be aware of around josei-muke? Lucellus asks, like, who's josei-muke for? As well, saying that what is it about the genre that gives people love that differentiates it from all the other popular Japanese media out there. So maybe let's just start with some of these definitions first, and then we'll get into Lucell's question there about what makes josei-muke a little bit more special. So I don't know, Alex, you want to take a crack at defining josei-muke for us real quick?
So in simple terms, is media that's targeted towards women, and mostly what stays in this media is that the way they interpret love and how characters are written has a different perspective compared to josei-muke, and mostly that's the main difference on how we perceive characters, their relationship, and how love is displayed. Do you want me to talk about the subgenres, or?
How about we let Hani talk about her favorite otome first? What makes something otome, Hani?
Well, there's certain criteria that usually gets met. For example, that there's a female protagonist, and that there's male love interests, several ones that you can choose from. And it's just a genre that I have always really loved, Yeah.
So what would be like the main defining feature of that makes something otome?
I would say romance that is targeted towards women would be like the most bare bones way of saying it.
Mm-hmm. So do you want to add to some of these definitions, Alex? What are some other things that people should know about maybe otome and some of these other genres?
Well, a reason why we read otome is because it looks amazing. The art style is what brings us to otome.
True.
Because if you look at josei-muke and its art style, and then you look at what Hani showed us, you will see that it's very different art style,
it is,
colors and themes. So everything appeals to us to this type of market. So one, it's the fairy tale of choosing who you love and being loved by multiple people at the same time. Because it is a reverse harem. And depending on the route, they might fall in love with you later, or all of you love you and you have to decide. So that's the fantasy that everyone loves you. And it's a beautiful guy that loves you. It's a beautiful fantasy that we all enjoy here.
I have not played any otome games, so no, I am new to some of these ideas, and I certainly haven't played anything that would be considered reverse harem. So, learning a lot today. So, what about yaoi and yuri, and what are those, and how do those differ?
So we'll just use the term BL because nowadays the Japanese media Japan mostly uses just the BL term. But before it was yaoi, the hardcore, and shonen ai, the soft part. So mostly in BL we have two guys that fall in love with each other, and plot happens in between everything else. And the plot can differ based on the subgenre of the story.
So as far as, I mean, there are a lot of terms that get thrown around. Is moe not something that you find in josei-muke media? Like, where is moe completely unrelated? What is moe?
Moe is everywhere in josei.
Really? So which aspects would you describe as moe in josei-muke?
Honey, do you know do you know all the moe anime that with all the girls, the bands, when they go camping? Mostly josei-muke has girls doing cute stuff. What we have is boys doing cute stuff.
What is that, Yuru camp or something like that?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
We also have something very similar. For example, even brother conflict, you have all these your brothers who are really cute. They have the moe aspect. Or you have the anime where just cute guys doing cute stuff. Because people enjoy it and they just watch it.
So I guess moving on to the next question specifically, like I think we kind of covered the appeal, so we'll just keep moving on. So Jama asked, are there any common josei-muke vocab that Japanese learners, i.e. males, are not exposed to? Did you see any sort of difference there, Alex?
Kanji, did you read Angel Beats?
I did not.
Okay, so in Angel Beats, what's amazing, you can actually obsess over a male character and fall in love with him, but the actual route where you actually have romance is with a girl. And when I was reading it and reading the intimacy scene, I couldn't read it. Mm-hmm. They used certain phrases, metaphors, and words that I couldn't understand it because I was reading so much BL and otome. And in there, you don't really see female biology. I almost never saw it. So when I read Angel Beats, I was like, what is this? I don't understand what is going on. I felt so weird reading it. So mostly, if you go backwards from Dansei to Josei, you have another type of biology, another type of words, and mostly edgy words, depending on what BL you read. They might not appear in Dansei and so forth. So that's mostly what I saw. I don't know what Hani saw.
Yeah, Hani, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I would say, I mean, to be fair, there's also always some overlap going on. I would say a bigger difference might be the genre you're reading. So like if you go from something that's super, action-packed to something that's now slice of life and romance maybe, then I think that'd be a bigger gap, that'd be a bigger difference. But there's also some differences just inherently based on whether something is josei-muke or dansei-muke, for sure. But I can't give so many concrete examples because I've not read that much dansei-muke to begin with. Yeah.
I guess that would make sense. You would have to kind of be able to see both sides there. So at least on the topic of Angel Beats, Alex, wasn't that the one by, who was it? By Key that they, like there were supposed to be a lot of them and then they canceled it because it like got so bad or something like that. Like that's what kept me from reading that one. It looks good, but
I watched the anime so many times. When I hear the opening, I cry. I love the anime. So I read the visual novel and I was so disappointed because there's no continuation.
Yeah.
There's no continuation.
Dead. Not getting that one anymore. That one, I don't think they haven't come out with a sequel in quite a while. So I think the dreams of finishing that are over. Onto a lighter subject. What are the origins of your Discord username? So Alex, yours is, well, it was long and confusing to me, certainly when I first met you. Alec, what was it? AlexmarsCat? But
yes.
Now, some Discord servers have. No, I'm not going to say it. Go ahead. What was the origin of yours?
Okay, so my name is Alex. I like the planet Mars, and I like cat.
That's simple.
It's that simple. I had to choose a name. And I was like, well, I'm Alex. What else should I choose? Because his name is taken. And I was like, well, I like Planet Mars. What else? Well, like, I like cat. Well, TikTok.
I guess that works. Okay. And then, Hani, what about you?
Yeah, sure. So, like, when I was around 8 years old, I don't know if you people still remember, like, Flash games on the internet.
Absolutely.
Small, like, mobile, PC games. So, there was one that was a dress-up game, and I needed to log into it, register my an account, and that is when I typed in my nickname, but it was taken. So it had like several suggestions underneath, and one of them was Honeyflower, and I picked that one and have been using it ever since. Like I'm 23 now and I still use it, so yeah.
Simple enough. Jama suggested AlexmarsCat BL reverse harem as your new username.
Oh, I have my own pride, you know.
That might be a little too long.
I have pride.
Okay, so how about we move on to Lucellis' question, which is, what's the first piece of josei-muke media that you encountered, and what was its effect on you? Ani, do you want to start us off on this one?
Sure. So at first, I thought I was watching a bunch of shoujo, but then it turned out to be dansei-muke actually, like, for example, Berserk the Vampire. So the first the first shoujo anime that I watched, I believe was Sailor Moon. It aired on television and I watched all episodes. I really liked it. And then later on, I started getting into, again, reverse harem anime, like Utapri or Kiniro no Koroda. And those just really shaped me into who I am today.
Alex, what about you?
So, I told you about the manga with the yandere, Hadashire, Baraofume. The problem is, it's such a typical josei shoujo. And the second main lead, he gets so obsessed over you that in the end, he starts like taking an axe and banging at every door to find you. And that was when I was very intrigued by what was happening and how humans can react so how to say this, obsessively to a certain person. And that fascinated me. And that's when there was no way back. I couldn't return from there, that point on, to the point of I read everything that's yandere, male. And at one point I couldn't find anything new. And I found a server where people recommend Yandere, and I never felt so happy to know that I'm not the only one who understands this. So yeah, that simple manga changed everything.
Okay. That was the start of the descent into what you called your villain arc, I guess, right?
Yes.
Okay. So actually, the first time I encountered josei-muke media was probably, and I mentioned this actually came up on the Discord last night, that originally Dragon Ball was the first thing that came over. Go figure. Then Pokemon came over when I was about in kindergarten. And then some point around there, I think maybe I'm like 8 or 9 years old, Card Captors was the next thing that came over. And so Card Captors Sakura was like, I mean, to me, I didn't know who it was geared toward or anything like that. It really, how they marketed it originally was kind of like Pokemon because they had already seen the success of that, right? But it's obviously completely different if you've actually watched it. It's not so much.
No.
It's not really monster collection, kind of card collection, but also just you're not going around being a trainer to like save the world or something like that. It's a very different feel. And actually recently, my wife and I have been getting up together at the same time and like working out together. And that has been the show that we've been watching. So we're like on like, I don't know, episode 30. I'm a lot more into it than she is though. And I think it's the nostalgia value, which is kind of funny to me. I'm like, yep, I remember this episode. I know what's going to happen here. It's like, oh man, this stuff really stuck with me somehow. But the art in it is actually really, really good for the anime. I have not really looked at the art style in the manga or something like that. So art style is really good. Also, like the actual, I don't know if I'd call them monster designs, but the Clamp did a really good job with just character designs all around in that one. So I thought that was really good. So it's funny to retouch with that piece of media that I hadn't really thought about until recently. So that's been a cool experience.
Kanji, are you from America?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so
American all the way.
I couldn't get to watch Card Captor. But what I heard is that when they tried to market it towards Americans, they made it appeal to boys.
It worked.
That's why they appeal that way. Because I don't know if they wonder the girls would actually watch it or not. So they just took it and tried to frame it so that boys would like it. So that's why it appealed to you. That
I saw
they actually did it.
I saw some like really short clip about Card Captors recently. I didn't do a deep dive on this, but basically they were saying that first off there was like 4 different versions of it, and that all the localizations were just like did like really goofy things, like cut out, kind of shaped the narrative more towards an American audience, right? Like there might be some chemistry between 2 boys apparently in that I'll be honest, I haven't picked up on that in the Japanese one either. But maybe I just haven't gotten far enough. But anyways, I'm not seeing that. But they're saying like things like that have just been like reshaped. And then also that there was like what was it, like action figures and stuff for like Sakura that they were like pushing on people to be like, oh yeah, like capture all the cards and like card collection. It's like, it's not really that at all though. So it's like, it's just one of those weird things where they tried to like force it towards, reposition what josei-muke media probably was originally, and then just, put it on my poor young unsuspecting American self as a child.
Fun fact, the male-male relationship is actually canon. And it's wonderful.
Spoilers!
I read about it.
Spoilers! Come on!
You have to
we're trying to get everybody to watch Sakura, and you're spoiling that it's actually BL. Come on, Alex.
It's not. But it's amazing what this type of shoujo does. And I don't know how popular BL was, but they kind of integrated little forms of it in a lot of shoujo that was popular at the time. Even I think Sailor Moon had a bit of Yuri that they masked when they tried to target it to the American audience too.
Yeah, no idea. That'd be interesting to look at some of that censorship, things that maybe the young American audience wasn't ready for at that time. So all right, so and then did we talk about? I mean, we've kind of talked about the journey so far, but I believe you said, Hani, how many months were you into Japanese when you started your first VN?
Around 2 to 3 months.
2 to 3 months. And then Alex, what about you? Like, what was your first debut one, and how long did it take you to get to that point?
My first regret is that I wasn't like Hani and I didn't read after 6 months. So when I heard Hani started so early, I was like, oh no, my biggest regret is not starting to read early, because I think I read something 2020, but actually finishing something really big, it was in 2021. So over a year of just listening. So I think Hani's approach to just get something you like and obsess over and just start reading it is much, much more better than just obsess over listening. Only listening at the beginning, to be fair. But for me, it took like over a year to try it.
Gotcha. I don't think I read a VN until 2022, which even when I started doing immersion-based learning, I started in like 2019. So I'm the slowest of all of you. So you've managed to top me there. Actually, I guess I did read, what was it? Gyakuten Saiban 5. So at some point that was probably like a year and a half in or something, probably like that, to immersion-based learning, which I had like 4 years of traditional study before that. So you've topped me once again, ladies. All right. So what would you describe the experience of reading in a foreign language like at your current ability feels like? So I feel like a lot of people, when they start out, they get really demotivated quickly because obviously it's not as smooth as their native language. At the same time, I think there's a lot of misconceptions even later on of just the level of comprehension that people get at despite reading a lot anyways. So I guess that's really the heart of this question is, what's that experience like for you? Actually, maybe let's talk about like what's that like at the beginning, and then kind of where it kind of feels now. Maybe Hani, can you kind of speak to that?
Sure. So I'm not even going to lie. Like at the beginning, it was painful. Yeah, like when I started reading, I had several unknown words per sentence. Sometimes I could just not grasp the grammar. I like look it up and still not understand it. Yeah, but I still continued because those are visual novels that I really wanted to read. I just really loved those and still had fun reading them. So I continued. And yeah, over time, it just gradually became less painful. Sometimes I'd look back and realize like, wow, I'm actually enjoying this much more now. Because, I'm reading much more faster. I can get through the plot faster. And yeah, I just enjoyed it more. Although I always enjoyed it, of course. Yeah. And now I'd say that like enjoyment is very high, but somehow it's still a conscious process, So like when people are fluent, like truly fluent in a language, they don't really think about it, They just kind of read something. If they get a glimpse of something, they can immediately see like what it is. For me, I need to consciously get into the mindset of, okay, I'm reading Japanese. But then it's an enjoyable process for sure. But it's just conscious, I still need to think about the sentence that I'm reading, in front of me. If that makes sense somehow, I don't know.
So it's still a active process. It maybe not what would you say? Not completely. I don't know if fluent's the right word, but not as streamlined as you might in your native language. But that
definitely, it's just less like automated, sort of.
Right.
That my brain just does everything by itself. Like I still need to put in a bit of effort to really think about it. But it also kind of depends on what the content is like. If it's extremely easy, then nowadays, of course, it's just very easy. It's just when it comes to harder stuff, it's not like everything is fine now. I'm completely fluent and everything is as easy as it is for me in English or German. Yeah.
Okay. And Alex, what about you? Like, what was your experience to start reading, and then where do you feel like you're at with that now?
So when I started reading, I would read for 30 minutes and then fall asleep. I couldn't do a lot of reading because my brain was so overloaded, because I had to recognize the kanji, read the word. What reading is it from all the 10,000 readings? The grammar, what does it mean? What is happening in the story? So everything was so overwhelming. I wasn't able to read without falling asleep for a long period of time. It was awful. I would just stay in bed trying to read web novels, and then I would just fall asleep. I couldn't read a lot. But that changed when I started pushing myself to read 3 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours sometimes. I managed to do 100K per day sometimes. And when you're pushing yourself and getting used to it, it gets better. So before it was
that's still
like
better than I've ever gotten. 100K. I think I got like 92 with Shingako on the final route.
Omedetou! I'm so proud of you.
I'm more proud of you. 100K is a lot.
No. I mean, when you really like the story, it just flows, man. You just press next. You don't understand what happened. You just forget the story. You just in the moment you just press next. That's what I did in English, and that's what I keep searching Japanese too.
So as far as like the feeling of like where it's at now, like what's it feel like to be reading now at your level?
So imagine that you're driving and you're listening to the radio. You understand what is going on, but because you're really concentrated on driving, you cannot pick all the words. So, but your mind understands the context of what is happening. Even if you don't understand certain words or certain sentences, you have the context from before, so you can fill in the gaps. It's not perfect, but if you just rewind once or twice, you're like, okay, I get it, it's fine. So I'm not at the point that I'm saying fluent, but if I were to live in Japan, I'll be fine. I won't die. I promise. So I'm at the intermediate hell, kind of.
Sure.
Where I'm close, but yes, so far away.
Yeah.
But it's still a good place to be because it's so hard as a beginner, but you cannot understand anything and you cannot enjoy anything. But now I can just pick up, look at it and say, okay, I will read it. Nah, it's too hard. Next time. So I'm a really very good place right now.
Yeah, I think that's a really like a lot of people don't just manage to even Hani's story of getting through like in one level in 2 years isn't probably even the norm at this point, right? Like, so a lot of people, it's just going to take a little bit longer, but it's one of those things. As long as you never stop, you can definitely get there, right? Absolutely.
But I'd also like to say that it was a Giri Giri pass, so it was not Manten, like anything crazy. I had 170, 107, 107 out of 180. Yeah, and you need 100 to pass, so yeah.
There you go. It's pass fail, so it's either a 1 or a 0 in my book, and it sounds like you passed. So there you go. So what are some areas that you still think you need to focus on in terms of your Japanese? So we were already kind of talking about giri-giri passing and maybe not being at the level of fluency that you want to stay at forever. So maybe Hani, you want to start us off on that one as well. What could you still work on there?
Sure. So first of all, of course, there's always specialized words, vocab that I've not heard of yet. So like in fields like medicine, science, stuff like that. Yeah, and there's also stuff like that you only kind of get to hear once you're actually in Japan. I feel like, for example, menus. Like when you walk into a restaurant and you have a menu in front of you. I've not been in that situation because I've never been in Japan. So I just have no idea about, stuff like that. But I'd say easily the biggest problem is just the fact that I cannot speak at all. And it makes sense, of course, since I've done zero output. I've just not practiced it. So it makes sense that, I'm not that good at it.
Mm-hmm. What do you have any next steps on that? Like, are you motivated to start working towards output? Are you planning on any trips to Japan? Like, or are you just kind of content with where it's at right now?
I'm not sure. I would say I'm content with it. Like, I would really love to be better at speaking, but at the same time, I'm also just very scared to do it. It just sucks, especially, of course, when you already have high comprehension, but everything that comes out of your mouth is genuinely so bad. It is unbearable. So I nowadays have a few Japanese friends in real life, and I meet up with them, but I really shy away from speaking Japanese to them. Like, I understand when they talk, they talk to me in Japanese, but I almost refuse to answer Japanese because it is so bad. So we mostly talk in English. I talk to them in English. We'll see if maybe one day I'll get over my fear. But for now, I mean, I'm doing what I wanted to do, read visual novels, so that is fine,
Right. And then what about you, Alex? as far as what are some areas that you'd still like to focus on improving?
Can I say something regarding honey and speaking?
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely. Please.
honey, listen to me, my honey. So
Yes.
let me teach you the power of being a gaijin in Japan. My foreign friends, they just went to izakaya and spoke to everyone. Their Japanese maybe wasn't as better as me. They couldn't understand as much as me, but they just went there and spoke. They didn't care. So I think it's a lot of waste potential if you travel away. So just imagine that you don't care and just speak, just chat. They don't care about how bad you are, And if they care, just go to other persons who might care about you. Or just go to an izakaya. The oji-san will talk to you. One shot, two shot, perfect conversation partners, or the obasan.
The intoxication might help with that as well. Yeah.
True, yeah. I mean, I tried VR chat once. I installed it, went into a world, and I just could not speak, not even in English. I just couldn't say hello. I just opened the game, was there for 10 minutes. I realized I just cannot say anything, and I turned it off, and I never opened it ever again. So it will take some time, but I hope I'll get there.
But behind the scenes, Hani did originally say no to coming on the podcast because she's very shy. So that she took the bravery to actually be able to come on here. Everybody really appreciates. Thank you, Hani.
I'm proud of her.
No problem.
Absolutely. So
the question.
yes. As for the question, yes, please, Alex.
So what happens in josei-muke is that there's so much slice of life. I don't really like slice of life, to be fair, but there's so much in here that also me speaking Japanese mostly slice of life content, every daily life. So I'm not used to like the big boys mecha news and so on. So that's a big hole that I want to fill in, mostly the mecha because I have to rewatch Code Geass and Evangelion. It's my personal life. So mostly there. And regarding news, I actually found a really good section called Minna no Gimon at the Hitere News, I think. And they have like 8 minutes shorts where they talk about a lot of recent topics in Japan. And they have all the vocabulary, like biology, social stuff, finance, politics too. So just watching that part of the news is actually very entertaining, and I'm starting to get used to the news vocabulary too.
Cool, very cool. So it sounds like you already have some next steps there. One question that did come in from chat from that one moose is, how did you guys handle studying grammar particularly?
I don't.
You don't? Okay, so you ignore grammar.
I don't. I try so hard to learn it, but even in English I couldn't learn it. I used immersion to be able to use it.
Sure.
So I don't know how I'm gonna solve it in Japanese because my grammar is so bad. So just most probably just power through it with reading. But otherwise, I don't know. I'm so sorry. Maybe Hani can help here.
I remember you actually asking that for the Darius pod. Yeah. Oh, man, why did I say it wrong again? I've been saying it right all day. Or like since the Darius podcast. That was one that you actually asked for that. And I think that's basically what we said is
power it through.
Keep reading. It'll sink in eventually. If you need to make Anki cards for specific grammar points, I think that's fine. I tried to power through with like Anki and grammar points. It didn't work. It honestly didn't work. So you just have to keep seeing it in your native immersion. And then eventually, the points will sink in as you see them more. At least that was my experience. Hani, what about you? Like, what was your study practice around grammar? I know you mentioned Genki. What else?
Exactly. So I learned some grammar points to Genki 1 and 2, so like N5, maybe N4 a bit. Afterwards, I just looked up any words that I found in my immersion material and looked them up. I used to use Google a lot. But later on, since I was at first I wanted to take the JLPT N2, in fact. But then there was a guy in the Norway, a user called Rudolf. I don't know if you see or not, but he kept on saying N1 or bust. Like he just kept on saying that in chat a trillion times to me. And I was like, okay, you know what? Actually, I'm changing my application. So I changed it to N1, and then I actually got it. So thank you to that person for sure. So basically, in preparation for the JLPT, I did do some more grammar study. I tried opening textbooks, but I just closed them again immediately. I was like, this is boring. It's so boring. So instead, I looked at Anki-dex, and I found monolingual grammar decks. So I used one for N2 and one for N1. Mm-hmm. But in the end, I didn't need to use all of them, since at the time I was reading Evermaiden, and that one had a lot of N1 and also some N2 grammar. So I realized as I was going through these cards, I kind of already knew most of the stuff. But still, it was just nice to just really make sure I really do have these points and I have them well in my head, and perhaps that help with the JLPG.
That's pretty impressive. The N1 or bust. That's a pretty good story. So let's talk a little bit more about communities. I know you guys have already both shouted out the Moe Way. I know you mentioned mini immersion on Instagram. Is that right? That's a community over there, Hani?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any others that stand out that have been useful or that you've seen? Either of you?
So personally, there was also a YouTuber who talks about otome games, and she also had her own Discord server. It's called Lavender Field, and I was also very active there for a while, and we were also reading certain VNs together in Japanese. So yeah, they also helped.
And is that one like primarily English based, but they're learning in Japanese? Is that correct?
Yes, it's English speaking, but I learn Japanese.
Gotcha. And then Alex, what about you? Any that particularly stand out?
I found my safe haven in the Moe Way, mostly in the Josei. I live there, okay? I live there. I used to live in the VC too. And I need to apologize to all my VC friends. I was busy with graduating life and work, and I couldn't make it again to join your cult. Because it is the cult. I apologize. I have to tell you the truth.
Yes.
So, mostly in the VC cult and the josei-muke cult. Yes.
So those are your two primary cults. Gotcha.
I was also there a lot, for sure. The Moe Way is great.
Okay. Fantastic. So, let's see. Pat Chat GC asks, why'd you quit Twitter, Hani?
Yeah,
maybe I pushed that on him, but yes, that's the question.
Okay, so first of all, disclaimer, I have never answered this question before anywhere else. So this is the very first time I'm saying this.
She's lying to you, but keep going, Hani.
Okay, so basically I just realized it was a huge time waster. I would spend ungodly amounts of hours on Twitter, and I really love like the nice fandom niches that are in there. Those are really great. You know, you have people posting fan art and stuff. But no matter how much I would concentrate on those places, Elon Musk would just make it his personal mission to just put the most like insane rage bait on my timeline. And I just realized I just cannot escape it at all. Like the only way to escape is to actually just quit using Twitter. So that's what I started to do.
Gotcha. Okay.
I recommend it.
Recommend it. I also it's one of those things. I've used Twitter consistently for quite a while, but by consistently I mean completely inconsistently consistent with being inconsistent. But recently I've also found that all my messages keep getting deleted. Like I'll post something and they think I'm a bot or something at this point, which I don't think I post that spammy stuff, but it's like I'll probably have to reduce my my doom scrolling there as well, Hani. So you're not alone. Let's see. So anything special about the overlap between josei-muke and the Japanese study communities? So that's from Lucellus. So is it, I'm curious, like as far as the intention of this one, did you guys have anything specifically that you wanted to talk about? I know, Alex, you had some comments on this.
You know what's amazing about josei-muke? 90% is just slice of life. It's drama, it's love, it's cute boys. So it's the perfect thing to just get obsessed with it. I mean it. Like, for example, almost all the BL dramas are slice of life. everything that's popular, except some isekai, is just slice of life. So it's a curse. I cannot deny it because I like big stories like in Chinese PL. But if you just find something interesting in there, it can be very entertaining. And it's just the vocab to survive in Japan, to be fair.
Okay. So I guess we can go ahead and move on to the next one. So we already covered this a little bit. So a lot of content that gets recommended tends to be josei-muke, so for guys. So how does your interest in josei-muke content impact your experience with learning Japanese? I'll also add the additional context that, like I said, kind of at the beginning in the intro, tried to find some stuff for my wife, and it was just like, all this stuff is like probably, I mean, to your point, it's not really going to jive with kind of what she'd be interested in anyways. She already doesn't like high school stuff. She doesn't want to read anything super sus or like super deep romance based from what she's told me. So it was just like VNs already were kind of like, probably not going to be the right fit. But I am curious, like from your experience. And then I kind of mentioned this before. I was trying to find like some Switch games that she could play that were maybe a little bit more like along like the lines of what you were saying, Hani. But the ones at that point that could actually be hooked, which for an absolute beginner makes things a lot easier, like they just kind of weren't there. So I kind of just saw roadblocks getting set up there that I didn't know how to break through because I'd never dealt with them. I'm just going to do whatever everybody else is reading, right? But that was kind of my observation. So, Alex, from your perspective, anything in particular that's impacted your learning, you think specifically as like living in a josei-muke world, if I can say that?
It was hard to search stuff that you can hook because everything that you were interested and it was at your level, you couldn't do it, so you had to follow through it. For example, no 9. Right. But now I find it amazing that you can just play it and search for the words so much easier, or OCR it.
Okay.
So with the new technology, it's so much easier to just read anything and do anything. So, but before you had to follow it through, unfortunately. And that was actually a gift and not such a gift because you forced yourself to the hardship to learn faster because you wanted to know what was going on. You needed to know. So you would just do it. I had something similar in the English too, because with anime, you couldn't really search the words with subtitles when you had it in English, but I would just want to do it and I would just read it. So there was something that was maybe a plus or not, depending on how you see it, having to power it through.
Certainly will weed out the weak. Yes. So what about you, Hani? Did what was your experience like there? It almost seems like you came at this completely from the josei-muke perspective. That was always the intention and the goal. So did you get fazed by that, or what was your experience?
I think what'd be very interesting to mention is also like opinions on VNs. Like you have just so many players or readers when it comes to josei-muke. So like Japanese only ones, in fact. So there you just always know what is generally pretty good, generally pretty bad. Of course, you could find it to be different. But with josei-muke, it is quite difficult, to first get an idea whether something is really good or not. So yeah, that was definitely harder. I mean, if you look at JPDB, for example, there's just way less, josei-muke VNs that are listed on there. Well, there's just a lot of josei-muke, of course. Yeah, same with VNDB. We just have so many more ratings in general towards just something that is huge, for a male audience. While you just don't have that many for josei-muke VNs, so you're kind of going in more blind. Yeah.
That is interesting. It feels like a lot of things are more. It's harder to find things that are just like completely uncharted territory. I feel like one thing is like at this point, especially like I see this in video games, like people are trying to find the most obscure things and then they'll make content about that. They'll make videos about it. Josei-muke stuff, maybe that's one of the last pioneers that people need to start discovering. I don't know. What do you think, Hani?
Yeah, for sure. But I will say, I mean, of course, there are a lot of players, a lot of readers. But there definitely could be more. Like just in comparison, there's just so many more josei-muke-enjoyers.
Right. All right. Any last comments on that one, Alex?
Yes. So
go ahead.
You know that before the josei-muke club, I was so lonely because I was the only one who learned Japanese in my friend group. And even in my school, I was the only crazy one who was reading from the beginning. So it was very lonely to not talk about anything. And I think the josei-muke-enjoyers are usually really loners because it's hard for us to find communities. Because we tend to be very specific about an interest, or it's hard to find the places that you want to be in. And I also heard rumors about certain Discord servers that enjoy VNs, and they don't tend to like the ones who read in Japanese. Sometimes I heard about this because it's like a cheat. You read it before everyone else because everyone is waiting for the English release, and you are cheating and just reading before everyone. So it was really hard to be so lonely, and I think that's why I moved very slow at that time too, because I didn't have the motivation of being together with reading together with someone, enjoying the same content and so on.
Yeah, that's something worth calling out. Is I think especially when I started learning Japanese, I definitely was trying to be, I don't know, I got really into AJAT, right? And was trying to not talk to anybody else in English at all. And
I was too.
As many benefits as you might expect that to bring, I think I've seen more benefits just hanging out with other people in English that are actually trying to get good at Japanese as well. And it's one of those things, I don't think it's like you have to choose one or the other there. I think if you're in servers with like Japanese people, you got Japanese friends, like that's a great supplement. But if you don't, it almost seems like a shame to like try to be coming at something as monumental as learning a foreign language to a high degree. It just makes a big difference having other people there that kind of have like your same mentality, I guess. And so finding whatever that culture is that kind of resonates with your mentality around it, I think that's super useful. I can say for myself, it's also been useful because some people don't have my exact same mentality and they gut check me on stuff quite frequently. I don't know. Maybe if we have extra time, I'll get into some rants of some people that were going crazy on me this week for some reason. But that might run out of time for that one. We're already at 2 hours. We'll probably still be able to get through all of our. We'll have to edit some of this out, like I said, but we'll probably get through recommendations. We'll probably get through at least a couple of Lily questions. But we still have a lot of content. So tech questions. Let's keep chugging along. So tech questions. As far as like the ideal setup for immersing now, trying to continue to get better with that mentality. Hani, I know you said that you have done a lot on the Switch. What's that setup for you look like these days as far as like if you were trying to learn more vocab, like any specific tech that you're looking at there?
Wait, let me show you my collection.
Okay.
These are the Japanese otome games that I have.
Bit of a flex. Yes. Okay. So just buy a bunch of otome games for Switch. Then
I start playing. The great thing is that what else? The great thing is that I'm now much better than I was at the beginning. So I do not need to look up as much. Every couple sentences maybe there's something, or maybe even rarer than that. If I find something that I don't know, then I just look it up, and that's it. But I do not add stuff to Anki from the Switch. That is just too much of a hassle, in my opinion.
So as far as looking stuff up, like are any particular resources that you're using there when you look stuff up? You using gshow.org, some monolingual dictionaries? What exactly are you using these days?
I like to use monolingual dictionaries.
Okay. Is that using like Yomiton's built-in functionality there, or are you using something else? What exactly?
Yomiton.
Okay. And Alex, what about you? Anything in particular that stands out to you as your ideal tech setup?
So now everything is so amazing right now compared to before. I swear,
That's
by
true.
the technology. So mostly get your visual novel, your clipboard with Yomitan, mine your cards. After the first, you should go through a pre-made deck just to be sure, and then just start mining your cards. It's so tough, but it's much better. It's more personal.
When you're talking about going through a pre-made deck, there, like what's the right pre-made deck for people to start on, in your opinion? There,
whatever has the most common words. It can be 1,000, 2,000 words. So just N5 and 4-ish. They usually tend to be accurate for the most common, I think. But yeah, most common 1,000, 2,000. Maybe
do you think people should be waiting? Like, do you have to finish all your Anki cards before you can start reading, or you think people should probably just jump in alongside that and use that as supplement?
So you won't be able to read more than 5 minutes sometimes, but you should try. What is important that you should try it, and with bit by bit, you'll see that your tolerance increases, and you can do more. So don't do too much by yourself, but just try to do it.
That's that one moose says our ancestors suffered to give us one-click functionality. Yes, we've come a long way. Yes. So
especially on PC, it is just so much easier. Like I mean, you have ShareX, Textractor, stuff like that. Just makes everything so much nicer.
So as far as like the pre-made deck stuff, I know that there's the popular 1.5, I forget what the name of it, starts with a K, in the Moe way that people have been using. So maybe try something out like that if you're super beginner, and then you can get into reading as soon as possible after that, probably, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and get into some tropes and trends of josei-muke content. So this one's actually from my wife. So what are some differences that you notice for josei-muke content versus other varieties? I know, Hani, you've already kind of mentioned you kind of just stay away from the dansei-muke stuff anyways, but have you noticed anything particular there?
Not really, I guess. I mean, I guess there are differences, but it's hard to explain. Like, they're just kind of there. Like, when I read something, I can just tell whether it was made for me or not.
Sure.
Yeah. And also the art style. Yeah. So.
The art style is a really interesting one, because as soon as you see something like a shoujo manga or something like that versus something that's like shonen manga, like first off, the eyes are always so different. Like that's like the dead giveaway. It's like they're all sparkly and illuminated. So there's definitely just a different feel to it. What about you, Alex? Notice anything in particular that's different between those two areas that you can pinpoint? I know you're. Yeah, go ahead.
So mostly, I would recommend her seinen or josei, because shonen tends to be very for teenagers. So it appeals to them. It's immature. So what seinen josei does is that it takes the more mature side of love, relationships, and our life as human beings. So that's what is very interesting. Also, why it appeals so much for us and compared to seinen is that we take pride in how pretty the manga is, because I choose my novels based on how pretty the covers are. I don't. I
judge a book by its cover. Got you. Yes.
Yes, I can tell if a manga is a BL or not just by the spine of the book. I don't have to look at the book, because there's a certain allure. There's a certain way they do the art and the typography that it appeals to us. So that's what's really different. For example, One Punch Man, how it started, it looked awful. Yeah, you can read it because it's interesting, but the girls won't look at it like, it's not. The guy's bold. I don't really like it. Also, the art is not pretty. I'm not touching it. Even visual novels, everything, it's so pretty, because if it's pretty, it appeals to us. So there's a very big difference. You cannot call yourself josei-muke and not try to have pretty art or pretty boys.
Yeah.
I mean, you can
actually show.
That's kind of genre.
There's this one, Torawari no Karuma. It has beautiful art.
I have to read that.
Yeah, I have not read it yet myself, but I want to very soon.
So what about actual tropes that you're finding in it, in this sort of content? I know Akabaka mentioned some. I don't know how cursed these are. I don't know how offensive these might be.
I don't know.
So what are these, Alex? Do you want to kind of step us through what some of these tropes are? What are the weird things that you're seeing in here?
Well, the problem with josei-muke and why it exists is that when something happens to us in real life, we have a reaction to it. And through books, we can understand what is going on in the world. So the woman standing in society actually helped developing the josei-muke and how it develops and the tropes. So you have tropes like Muriari and Omega verse in BL.
I have no idea what those mean. What are these?
It's so, I don't want to translate Muriari because I think you'll flag your video just in case. But it's mostly about forcing love without consent. And it's a type of fantasy that exists because nowadays we are so more stressed than before. So it's a way to like fantasize about not being as stressed in a sense because everything is so controlled in a book. You don't need to question if it's morally wrong or not. It's just a way to distress and escape reality. Even Omega verse, what I like about it, it's mostly, I like the ones where they raise kids because you see two cute guys raising kids. And maybe if I were to become a mom and I might have my own kid, I like seeing this kind of love relationship, this family relationship that you cannot really see it in normal life. Like it's a cathartic in a sense. And one thing that happens to josei-muke-enjoyers is that females tend to like see themselves as the watcher of what happens. And sometimes the female in a relationship in a sense. So it might happen BL too, but mostly in josei-muke, male-female, target the male-female stories where I see what happens, I like it, but I also fantasize that I am that person and I live this beautiful life with this beautiful husband and so on. I hope I answered your question.
I have no idea what you're talking about at this point.
Boy, what?
Okay. Omega, which one is which here? Omega verse is what exactly? Like, I know you said you don't want to get it.
So, what happened with the Omega verse is with the idea of male not capable of giving birth in reality. But what if they did? And the thing is, now relationship becomes equal. Because
so hold it. Omega verse is guys giving birth to babies.
Not only guys, also girls. And
okay,
it can
equal
be
rights.
any type
Perfect.
of relationship.
Okay. So that's what the Omega verse says. What was the first one that you're talking about? Is that this Omega verse thing too, or is this a different one? What's that? Go ahead, Hani.
Well, I mean, it's Muriari, so like basically non-con. I mean,
okay. Yes, that's what impreg is. That's what that means.
No. That's different.
That's different.
That one, it refers to a world where it's the same as reality, but in certain circumstances, the men seek and give birth. But it's mostly
stands for male pregnancy. That just clicked. Okay. So
it's a bit different. Omega verse has different rules and system in society structure.
What's the Omega verse? That you don't have to have consent?
No. You know alpha, beta, omega?
I'm familiar with these terms, yes.
Okay. So what happens is that in this world, they have a type of gland that emits pheromones. And based on this, you are put in a certain social standing. And depending on the world, alpha are the top ones, beta are the most common, and omega are the ones who give birth.
These are all guys? Wait, so omegas give birth?
Yes.
Is this like a genre in Japanese stuff? This is like a genre? This isn't like one specific work. This is like,
it's a genre.
Oh my god!
It's a genre also in America too.
So many works.
Very similar.
It's popular. I'm not into myself, by the way, but it's popular.
Sorry, just recovering from shock here. I didn't expect it to be that. Akabaka did warn us that. Don't know if we want to get into that. Okay. Terrified Kagi says, Kanji, you're going to get scared. What have you done to yourself? Also, that I should have Alex on the podcast with Kamada. Kamada, if you don't know, was the person who made. I've been familiar with his work for some time. He, yes,
He's the one with the itchy.
yes, yes.
I admire him. I kind of admire him. Not gonna lie, because he's done it. He achieved what he wished. So I'm proud of him.
So and could you just fill in the audience? What was it that exactly he wished? Like, what did he achieve from your perspective there, Alex? Like, what are you commending him for?
So the guy knew what he liked. I forgot it was anti-art stuff, I know exactly. It was just josei-muke, more horrible than what you see in the sometimes in BL type of VNs. I'm not sure. I haven't read them. I don't want to read them. But the thing is, he knew what he liked. He read them. He pushed through them. And actually, I know he passed the N1. So I admire him for knowing what he likes, reading it, even if people call him stupid. I think they did at one point. I'm so sorry. I remember they discussed a lot about his actions and how he did, but he managed to do it. Me and Hani do it through josei-muke and BL, and he did it through that type of visual novels. That's actually
Nukige, yeah.
For his achievement, I'm really proud of him.
Is he the one who wrote that really long post on Reddit that got deleted? And then he added the new rule.
That's the one. That's the legend.
It's not allowed anymore, yeah. No, I really thought it was stupid that they removed it, honestly. Like, he did what he wanted to do. I mean, I commend it.
I don't know about the rule, but for his dedication, you have to respect that.
Gotta respect
whatever he read, I won't ever touch it, but I respect his dedication.
Yeah.
As a fellow learner.
Absolutely. All right. So Kamada, you've been welcome to the podcast. Alex definitely wants to have some more conversations with you about this. I think, man, it's a shame after such a lighthearted topic to dive into this one. But the next one is stigma. So, and I mean, I guess we're talking about some of the stigma against even Kamada himself there. But KK World asks, this was his statement. Is there a negative stigma associated with josei-muke fans? Specifically, I've heard many people in real life say that josei-muke is cringe, which when he wrote that, I just kind of chuckled because like, I've heard many people in real life say josei-muke is cringe. Like he's also, I don't want to, KK's in my Discord server, so I'm not going to pick on him too much, but he's also had a couple of hot takes from like, well, all Japanese people are racist is what they told me, or like things like that. So it's like, I don't know who he's talking to specifically, but apparently josei-muke may or may not be cringe. So Alex, Hani, you have some thoughts on that one? Alex, you want to start that one for us? Is it cringe?
Well, it's a very shallow criticism, to be fair, because me and Hani have a lot to criticize about josei-muke. And because we want to see the best of it, we saw Have an Official Blessing. Wait a second, let me pull up my books. I can even show the figurine. So this is Chinese. And it's such a lovely love story, but it's also a mystery book. So they actually the Chinese removed the love, but the story remained and it's so good. So it's a shallow criticism to say, it's cringe, but why is it? Please give me a reason why exactly it is so I can point it to you, because we do have our own tendencies towards certain themes, but they also have it in the josei-muke. For example, you know that in the animes you can marry your cousin. You know, the guy also always wants to marry the cousin in the anime. We also have stuff like that. So it's not fair to just say we are cringe because you're also cringe, you know, because there are stuff that is cringe, that josei-muke that we dislike, but there's also so much stuff we love. For example, Evangelion, Code Geass. There's so much love there. So there might be negative stigma because we just love to read about love. And people will see that's stupid. You should read about politics or something more better that might save the world.
Sure.
So yeah, that's mostly what I have to say. It's just a bit too shallow to discuss it just as being cringe. Tell me more exactly. What exactly is cringe?
That's fair.
Why does it affect it that it's cringe?
Hani, any reactions to the information that josei-muke may or may not be cringe?
I mean, I would personally say I may be cringe, but I'm free. Like, honestly, I really don't care. Like, okay, I'm cringe. Okay, so now what? Like, I enjoy reading the stuff, and I'll continue to enjoy reading my stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it changes nothing. So I would just say that, you should just continue to read more if you like that kind of stuff. And yeah, just read more.
One person's cringe is another person's based. I believe that's what they've said online these days. Yeah. So getting a little bit more serious again. So KK World kind of expanded on this. So apparently saying that sometimes there's homophobic stigma around it, or they accuse people that watching it of pretty nasty stuff, which that's how he phrased it, pretty nasty stuff. And how might we be able to combat some of the negative stigma associated with it? He also says, how can we normal weebs help you guys? Which I think normal and weebs, it might be like a bit of what's the word, mujun, like the exact opposite of each other. So in general, I don't think we're looking for anybody to like white knight josei-muke media, but at the same time, like what's the what are some things potentially that you've seen there? Any sort of negative stigma, if at all?
If I can start.
Yeah,
is
please.
That people nowadays cannot distinguish what's reality and fantasy.
Yeah.
Because what's in reality and what happens in there affects us for life. That changes something in the real world. What happens in fantasy is just a reaction to that happens to us in the real world, and we express it to stories. So saying a lot of negative stuff, for example, for BL, I think that's what he meant, is that you should look first at hentai and then come to BL. It's the same thing. And also BL has a lot of subgenres that target different demographics. So if you look, for example, at erotica, and you say it objectifies women, of course, because it's an erotica, that's its job. That's why it was written. And it was written for certain demographics. It might not be you, and that's fine. Just leave it go. Find the stuff that you enjoy and love. So it feels, again, very shallow because it accuses such a big portion of josei-muke and doesn't show the actual problem. For example, why this stuff exists in the first place. So why does this stuff of really hardcore erotica exist? Why do we need it? Why do we need to read this? So I think the problem is much more bigger than us being cringe or us being whatever. It's why are we like this? Why do we react like this? Why do we react stories like this? In a sense. And about combating, it's mostly enjoy stories, give appreciation to good stories, write stories, and keep loving what you love. Because there'll always be people who would be against you, whatever you do. They will say that you're cringe. What's important is to find your community, to find people that enjoy the same stuff as you. Create, love, enjoy, and keep sharing. That's how you fight hate with love, in a sense.
Anything to add on there, Hani?
Well, it's exactly as Alex said, for sure. Like, I just feel like my role in this is just to keep doing what I do. I enjoy these stories. I read them. I create content for them because I like to. And yeah, everyone should just do that. Should just do the stuff that they like. I don't really see the point in obsessing over other people's opinions on it, honestly.
Fair enough. Yeah, I will say I did reach out to somebody else to come onto the podcast, and one of the things that they said that actually really stuck out to me, and the quote was, admittedly, I also just don't think I want to open myself up to any comments about being a woman, which was, I kind of dug into it with her a little bit. Like she was kind enough to like talk to me about what that meant, where that was coming from. But yeah, there seems to be in a lot of communities, I'm at least a little bit confused about why this is still a thing, but just like negativity towards girls in general. Like I don't feel like I'm in that many incel discords, but I feel like that's kind of what it's kind of devolved into for some of these places at this point. And I get that some of it's just like meant to be humor, like these are 14-year-old boys trying to bond with each other by joking about this sort of stuff. But it seems like they put certain people at a demographic that continue to be the butt of a joke that, I don't know. It's like, I'm very much like, when it comes to like any sort of like political stuff or like woke activism stuff, like I'm very much like in the middle. Like I just want to what Hani said, like, I just want to read my otaku stuff and be left alone. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm not trying to push anything on anybody, an agenda or anything. But at the same time, it's like, if you're constantly like making fun of people, like not treating people like people, not being respectful to one another, like it's okay to goof on each other. You know what I mean? To say like, Moe's cringe, because it is, you know, like it's okay to say those sorts of things as a joke, you know. But at the same time, like once you start getting into like just hateful level stuff, it's like sometimes you just need to chill out, take a chill pill from the internet and go outside, touch grass or something, I guess. I don't know. I certainly don't expect this podcast to fix that, but you know, it would be nice to see us kind of evolve and kind of how we talk to each other as humans in some of these cults, as Alex called them.
You know, from the day you asked me to be on a podcast to even 30 minutes before, or even before we stream.
Yeah.
I keep thinking if I should show my face or not. But then I saw Hani, and I was like, saw you. I was like, but I'm the KanjiEater podcast. Should I, shouldn't I? I mean, I'll be so criticized for liking BL, and people in joseimuke know what I like, and it's it's a lot. I like it because it's so gothy, it's gritty, it's edgy. I love this. It feels cathartic in a sense, but you're still afraid, you know, because you just say something wrong again, you just say you're cringe, you're awful, whatever, just because you read something. And the problem is that you read it because you love it, and you find meaning in there. You find something that you know, it's lovely, and people will say no.
Yeah.
Because that's how they see the world, and they don't want to accept that there's a different side to it and so on. So yeah, it's hard. But I appreciate that Hani showed her camera, and I was like, but Hani showed, what should I?
I also wasn't sure.
We very much appreciate you guys showing your face and being able to talk about these things. So it's very much appreciated. Now, onto a lighter subject. Good to move on to something a little bit lighter, content recommendations. So let me go ahead and switch our scene over here. So I talked about this one a lot on the last on the last podcast when I was talking about a beginner VN that people could get into. I don't really think of this like, again, like I watched Card Captors. I didn't think of it as josei-muke. I just thought it was cool. I didn't really think of this also as like josei-muke, but it does seem like it has kind of a different vibe than anything else that I had read. The main things for Aka Aka that stood out to me here was first off, the art direction's really different. The reading style of it, very much like a manga. Like it was basically all dialogue. In fact, it's the only VN that I've read that had it had no narration in it. So it's just all dialogue, which makes it, I feel like just in general, dialogue's just easier to read than narration. So it makes it kind of simple. Also, the soundtrack on this one was really, really good. And I still listen to it sometimes. It did recently get remade a couple different places. I think you played this one too, Alex. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you finish it? Or is this one of those 20?
Of course I did. I did not the PC version, I did the other one.
PSP.
And
right?
it had the BL feeling a bit because it had a bit edgy in a sense, like the horror-esque. Also, there's a lot of metaphors that you can interpret in a lot of ways, which I found really interesting. Because depending on the viewer, you understand the story in so many different ways.
There was subtext in one part. Well, that was slightly BL, I would say. And then the rest of it, I didn't pick up on those vibes. But I'm a guy. Sometimes I just don't pick up on stuff. So anyways, what was your reaction to this one? Did you like this one? Did you not like this one? What did you think about it, Alex?
It was a bit confusing. The story is a bit confusing if it's your first VN, but it's very entertaining because this Moe guy is doing actually kind of a horror story in a sense. So yeah, I really like the horror.
Yeah,
because it is. If you think about what happens in there, it's a horror. And that's usually how josei horror is written. It's kind of this feeling. It's not the Saw movies. It's not that type of horror. It's mostly psychological. In the atmosphere, it's body horror. Be here too for a bit.
Have you heard of this one, Hani?
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I've not played it yet myself. But I want to.
All right. So that's one recommendation. You want to explain what this is to us, Alex?
So, I saw the trailer, and this character is a yandere. Of course, he's a yandere, and he's a very good yandere. And when I saw this, I was like, I'm gonna read it for him, and I did. I did one more playthrough, but it was not that good. And I literally read 9 reviews for this guy because he's what I love about yandere. He's so unhinged, and I love how he's done because usually what happens with yandere characters in josei is that they are very watered down. It's barely something there happens, but this guy, he goes beyond just being obsessive. He goes beyond. He tries to affect your reality and everything, and that's what I like about yandere is that it goes to a very psychological aspect of why does this girl fall in love with him because he's such a red flag. But I like it. I want to know. I want to see how she falls in love with him and so on. And yeah, I made a joke with a hamster because this guy will wait for you. Whatever happens, he will wait for you. And also, it's an amazing visual novel to start. I think even is it your wife or just your girlfriend?
My wife. Yeah.
My wife. Oh. This is high school, but it's a bit of horror like high school. She might enjoy it. Also, it's very good for beginners. One of the girls in the josei-muke, she read it as the first, and she was amazing. Like, she just zoomed into it because the story is very entertaining.
So this is a yandere one?
Yandere, so.
Yandere, okay. And Hani, you know about this one?
Yeah, I definitely know about it, but I've not bought it myself.
Okay. So, Hani, I know you already talked about this one a little bit. It seems like it has a really unique art style compared to some of the other ones. What can you tell us about this one?
Yeah, so I watched the anime of it. There was an anime adaptation. Watched it when I was 13, 14, 15 maybe. And yeah, so when I started learning Japanese, it was definitely one of the visual novels I really wanted to read. And I started doing so in 2021. And again, this is the one that took me 269 hours, but it should not take that long. It was just because, I was a beginner. Yeah. And this takes place I should say it this way. It's a school setting with a lot of school vocabulary. So it's truly not that hard, although it is about various mythologies. I believe Japanese mythologies, then Scandinavian, and also Greek mythology. I believe there was also something else, but I forgot. Well, anyway, yeah. And I really enjoyed the story. Again, it's no masterpiece or anything like that, but it's nice, it's enjoyable. The art is nice, and I liked it.
So, okay, next one's mine. So actually, I just read this one this year. It is by absolutely incredible mangaka who I've become kind of obsessed with. So Akiko Sensei, she basically writes out her life story as a manga, basically how she went from not really being able to draw to becoming a mangaka. And kind of the thing that stuck out to me about it was, so this is also by the person who did Kurage Hime, so Princess Jellyfish. Maybe people have heard of that one. Same lady that did that, she did this, and it's only 5 volumes, pretty short. It's extremely dense though. As far as like, it almost borderlines on like kind of that essay form manga that's actually also really popular with female readers. And it's still definitely a manga. Highly recommend it. Just read it this year for the manga club that we had in my Discord server. And basically the thing that stuck out to me about it was just how funny it was throughout the whole thing. She's absolutely hilarious. And so I was like, man, I really want more content from her. So I kind of looked her up, and she actually has a podcast as well. So that's what we have here. Mimo Futomo Naito, which is her podcast. And she has like 300 episodes of it. So if you want some listening practice with somebody who's like absolutely hilarious, definitely check out her podcast as well, because I'm definitely obsessed. I also watched her episode with Urasawa Naoki, who's he's the guy who made Monster, 20th Century Boys, like a bunch of like really big notable works. And he has a show where he interviews mangakas. She was actually one of the very first ones, and her episode's really good too. So definitely check out this one. Next up, this is definitely an Alex slide.
Yes. So, but I think the josei-muke, I spoke too much today. The club in the Moe way knows, but my mom started watching PL because she accidentally watched Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, I think it's in English, Modao Zushi. And she fell in love, and she found places where she can watch it with Romanian subtitles. And then she found BL. And now she watched more than me, and I go to her for recommendations. And she happened to show me, she usually shows me the Japanese ones and talks about them because they are very different from the Thai BL dramas. And she showed me this one. I watched for a bit, and we ended the night at like 1 a.m. because I wanted to binge this so hard. It's a dating show where you have all these guys living in the same house, and they are trying to form couples. And what happens, the dynamic is that they go to this coffee truck to sell coffee. They keep the people who go on the shift keep changing, and with I think the money they earn, they buy food and they cook for themselves. So it's a very interesting dating show. They also talk about how it's like to be a gay man in Japan and everything. So it was very interesting to see this side of the dating experience. Also, the guy in the meme, I would marry him if I could. I would bring him to my mama because he's an amazing husband. He will make an amazing husband. I love him. This is what I wish in my life. I swear he's such an amazing person, because you know the girls all say the guys are stupid, but
I've heard this before. Yes.
The thing is, the guys have another way of understanding information and perceiving love and relationships. Mm-hmm. And I found the person in the image Dai to be very emotional in a very good way. Like, he's also very rational, knows how to talk, how to confront people, when to talk to them, how to approach situations. So he's an amazing partner you can have in your life. I swear.
So,
if only I could marry him, but
gentlemen.
I cannot do it. Yes, he's a true gentleman.
So, okay. So this is the cursed one that we've all read, all three of us.
Oh no, it's not.
Yes, and it's my favorite VN of all time. So
really, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so walk us through this one, Hani. What is this one?
Sure. So it's Shingakko no Rime Tangere. It is a BL VN, and it is so amazing. It's such a masterpiece in my opinion. But yeah. So as the title implies, it's set in a religious school, and the protagonist Michael just comes across like various situations that are just supernatural, and he's trying to figure out what's going on. And it's awesome. There's also some romance too.
That one moose says this one's definitely getting taken down. So now that you've put this on the stream, Hani. This I read this one because I was like, I feel like a lot of the like VNs that I was looking at, I really wanted just like something with like some cult stuff in it. You know what I mean? And just like some like what's the word? Just like supernatural kind of stuff, like what's in this exactly. And I really just didn't find anything quite like this in any of the like josei-muke stuff. So it was definitely outside of what I would say would be my normal comfort zone. I've never read anything that I would actually consider to be BL that I've read. Definitely at least a few scenes in this where I think I yelled out loud and like, yeah, I'm skipping that. And there's some extreme scenes in this one for sure. And I don't know, you can probably guess just from the context of it, just some of the weird and interesting things that get covered in this. But I will say it's written really, really well. Like the actual writing in it, especially like exploring some of the like Judeo-Christian themes in it, is really interesting how they wrote it. And I haven't seen anything quite like that from a Japanese perspective. So that was something interesting. The actual like occult stuff in it was pretty good. And then the one thing that kind of killed it for me, and I say killed it, I still gave it like a 7 out of 10. I thought it was good. That's a good rating for me. That's very high actually for me. The thing that killed it for me is it got really repetitive between the routes. There are at least a few that I thought like were like really stand out. Like the fourth and fifth one were very interesting for their own ways. But the 3 before that, like it suffers from a lot of the same things that I see in VNs where they kind of copy paste things between it. And I don't always feel like I really hate rereading the same stuff. So to me, it would have benefited from like just being one streamlined thing. But at the same time, it was like, it was fun to read. So I did like it. That wasn't supposed to be a critique of your favorite. I'm sorry, Hani.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
What about you, Alex? What did you think about this one?
So what happens in BL is that BL has an inferiority complex to other types of media. So what they do, they get really extreme in stories to up the entertainment level. That's why I like BL. That's mostly horror, like this, because they take everything to very unknown territory, which other media doesn't dare to touch.
I would agree. So I saw things in this that I've never seen anywhere else, and I hope to never see again.
That's amazing. Also, sometimes I had physical pain or disgust, and at the fourth route, I started crying because what the MC felt, I felt it in my life, and it was such an uncanny experience to understand what this character is feeling and to experience your life, the mistakes you've done in your life, and see it here. I started crying. I couldn't read it. I had to stop and return another day because it was so emotional for me. So this is why I like josei-muke. It can be, and it happens in certain other media too, but in good stories that they capture what we actually feel in real life, and they just replay it in another settings and in films. This is awesome.
I'll also say I really liked Neil. I really hated Cecil. That's all.
Cecil?
I'll go back.
Did you hate Cecil?
Absolutely.
No way. You could marry that guy. He's actually someone that's sane and will make a good partner to marry. How did you hate Cecil?
Bit of a crybaby, I thought.
That's the point.
But I understand that.
What's that?
Yeah.
What side are you on, Hani? Cecil, thumbs up or thumbs down?
I would personally say thumbs up, but I've seen some other people say that he's like a bit boring, perhaps, in comparison to like the other characters, and I kind of get it. But I still like him. But my favorite is Gabi. I feel like Michael and Gabi are perfect, but let's not get into that.
Let's not get into that. Yeah, I have to read the whole story to understand that relationship. All right, next one. So I have not read this one. I've pushed this one on other people and gotten them to read it though. So So not through my experience, but through others. This was the one that my wife actually did start reading, which honestly I want to read it because it looks cool and it's got guys with swords and stuff. So I mean, my bar is very low as far as what I read, but she ended up dropping it though because apparently there's a guy with glasses in it that she said he was getting too pushy with her, and so she was just like, I'm not gonna have that anymore, and she just dropped it. I don't know if this is the last VN she'll read or she'll pick up some more, but that's kind of where she landed with it. We also had another person on the Discord that for his first VN decided to read this one on PS2, which wasn't hookable. The PS3 version actually was, but this wasn't. But now it's been remade on the Switch, and you can use Agent and read it that way. So it seems cool, though, just because of, first off, there's a lot of different games in the series. So it was like, they've been able to expand the world and stuff. But yeah, it also has an anime as well. So I hope to at least at some point play through this one. I keep pushing it back, though, and I feel bad for that. But that's one that is definitely on my radar. Have either of you heard of this one? Is this one worth a read?
I've heard of it, but I've not read it myself.
I feel like I think they hadn't really been doing much with the IP until like the Switch reboot. Like there was one port on Vita, but it wasn't like a lot of the other ones. It seemed like the PSP and even for some reason the DS games were a thing for it. So yeah, and then PS2. So kind of old now, but yeah, it's one that I'm looking forward to. So is this one? Yeah, this is an Alex one. You can tell.
Again, it's a horror BL with body horror, psychological horror, and extreme imagery. And the thing is that as long as it's not on bad, it's gonna be fine. And what's extremely crazy, it's mostly written, so that's approximately fine. But this is one of the, except Shingako, this was I read this before writing my thesis and everything, so I was under a lot of stress. And when I was reading this, I was like, was this written for me? I kept questioning because it was perfectly for what I like in BL, this craziness. And I cannot. So what happens that the main protagonist is the pink guy. So he runs after someone and happens to just run into a house where everyone is like souls that refuse to go on or return to their bodies. But he's the only human alive, the only human in that world, and everyone sees him as something very delicious. So everyone is kind of a yandere to certain degrees, but two are extremely yanderes, and it's amazing how well done. And this has the VN and a fanbase, and the writers took so many extreme yanderes in here. It's amazing. They had the courage to do this, and I love it. I don't. It's hard to recommend this. Like if Shingako is hard to recommend, this is even harder because really? Shingako has a really good story. This one is also good, but it's very BL in a sense that you need to kind of like BL or crazy stuff to attempt to read this, because otherwise it's so nonsensical and just kind of depraved in a sense. But I love every character. For example, one, I hated him. He's a tsundere. But in the fandom, where you have the continuations of the end in a bad end, I fell in love with him. And I thought it was impossible to fall in love with someone in a bad end, but it's possible. So it's an amazing horror story if you can handle body horror and more extreme content. But I still think it's not that bad compared to some josei-muke I know. So this is still very mild, probably depending on your tolerance level. But if you like Shingako and you like the horror and body horror, you can try this one. You should satisfy that urge, that reading urge.
I'll just say on the topic of Shingako again. I also found something that was kind of like Shingako that wasn't at all Shingako, and that was Tokyo Twilight Busters, which is a goofy name. I don't know if you guys have heard of this one. So it's on VNDB, but it's really more of like a point and click adventure. It's not BL. It's not romance at all. It's a point and click adventure game, but it's very text heavy. So it is like a more like a visual novel feel. So that one is basically just like the dark cult stuff, like kind of like Call of Cthulhu or something like that. I played through it really recently. If for some reason like this just doesn't appeal to you, you can't get over the BL aspect for it, and you're looking for something dark, that's probably good. If you want to double down on the BL aspect, it sounds like this is probably the next step.
Oh yes, because the BL aspect is so tied down to all the horror and everything that happens that it's the same. It's a bit similar but different from Shigako because the BL matters in Shigako because that's where a lot of horror starts from. But in here, it's a bit of a different take.
Okay.
So not the best for beginners. You might scare them to be there.
Where would you put the Japanese level on this one? Is this still beginner friendly, a little bit more intermediate?
So from what I observed, it was mostly intermediate, a bit too advanced, but not that much. But as long as you are intermediate and you like it, it's gonna be fine.
Sure. So, all right, next one. You've already mentioned this one, Hani. What's this one about?
Yeah, so this Ever Maiden, Taraku no Sono no Tomodachi, and it's, well, I don't know. I would say, so I wrote that it's higher intermediate to advanced. I was a bit scared of writing advanced because I feel like in this community, advanced,
Yes,
I'm sorry, but in this community, advanced means like super hard, like real soft kind of games that are just try hard, kind of.
Yes.
So what I mean here with advanced is rather just in a normal kind of scale, or maybe perhaps you could say josei-muke, although I'm not sure this even counts as josei-muke. Probably not. I don't know. Like Liarsoft games have this thing that they're just kind of in the middle, I feel. I don't know. They just
the art style is
like
definitely josei-muke. I haven't read one, so I kind of get what you're saying though there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely very interesting. And the plot revolves around multiple girls. And what I really liked about this is that it doesn't have the typical setup of, you have one protagonist and a couple of love interests that you can pick from. But instead, like, there are set couples, various, and you even switch between their perspectives. So yeah, it's definitely very interesting. It's a school setting, but it's very sci-fi. And yeah, it's also a mystery. Like, you're trying to figure out what's going on. Yeah, can really recommend it. I think it's really good.
Might have to bump that one up on my list. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also R18. So if you're not into that,
yeah. Speaking of R18, I don't know how much people outside of the BL community know about this one. This one was on my radar because when I started looking into just like all the different VNs that are out there, the other one by this author A Delta, like they had a couple other ones that were really well received. And when I was reading through like the blog post about like what this one was going to be about, well, first off, like the art kind of captured me because again, it's like really dark looking. It's going to be horror, like that sort of thing. But then the author like referenced like it's going to be a mystery, like 1950s Japan on an island, Agatha Christie vibes. I was like, okay, this. Like I don't see that vibe in a lot of different content. So I've been really looking forward to it. It was supposed to come out last year. Now it's apparently going to come out they finally put a date on it. And so it's on the 10th. So 20 days from now, October 25th, 2024 is the first part that's supposed to come out. So now they've broken it up into 2 parts though, which they apparently just announced that. And the last part's supposed to be out in winter. So maybe by the end of the year, you'll be able to read through the whole story, but at least be able to start the first half of it this year. So I've been looking forward to that one. It looks like a really cool vibe. Again, I'm not super into like romance in general, BL in general, but I mean, we're going to be killing people. So I think that's going to be interesting. So, Alex, it looks like you recognize this one.
I know. They released a book with the introduction to the characters. And it's amazing how many types of characters it has because BL tends to be really targeted. So for example, 20-something, you have no thank you with actual a bit more Oji-san, 30, 40. But in here, you have a lot of ages. There's actually a guy, I think he's the monk, who's 56 years old as an interest in there too. You have a lot of types of interest. Also the mystery, the art style. It just screams horror mystery. I love it. This is what I need in my life. And I've been so excited for it.
Yeah,
it looks amazing.
I haven't found a lot of good mystery-based visual novels. Like we mentioned Shingako, which kind of definitely has that. I don't know which one's that?
It's
so I read that one. I read that one. Don't start me on that one. I'll get in trouble once I start talking about how I feel about that one.
It's not good.
I gave it a 4 out of 10, and people get really mad at me, but I stick to it. So Shingaku, 7. Umineko, I hated it.
I feel so proud right
much.
now. I don't know what to say. I feel kind of proud.
I wrote my review. It's on VNDB. It's spoiler free. If you want to argue with me or congratulate me on being right, it's all there. Okay. So yeah,
Okay,
Umineko,
please.
if you come at it thinking that it's going to be a mystery novel, you might be a little disappointed. So I'll just leave it at that. Moving on. I did look up a video of this one, and I gotta say, Alex,
Which one?
this next one we
The
have.
right or the left, because they are
Lo-
different.
Oh, they're different. Okay. I only looked up the one on the right because it was so goofy. And by goofy, I mean kind of nasty. Like if a guy brought this onto my show, I would say the same exact thing. I like, oh my God. Unrealistic body standards, first off. That's not fair. That's not fair to the men out there for you to be simulating having a relationship with these Korean gods. Like,
It's not, they are not Korean. They are Chinese.
could have fooled me. Anyways,
I actually installed this game a couple days ago. Like, I'm trying it out.
Was launched.
You're a bad influence on people, Alex.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, please.
On the first day, I downloaded the game. I think in the same day or next day, my mom took me to the train. And I was like, Mama, let me show you this cute guy. And on the train, on a phone call, I started telling her how to install the game, how to get an account in the game, and how to play the game. Why connection was cutting because we are going through forest. And my mama still plays it. Sometimes she wakes me up in the morning and shows me what card she pulled. And I keep getting jealous because she pulls the card I want and I cannot get them.
So this one is actually like, it's like full on like human dating sim thing. Like these are fully 3D animated portraits, right? And is there a story to this, or is this just...
Yes.
Okay.
So it's a bit of fantasy story, and you are a hunter who fights monsters, and these people kind of help you. So you have a doctor, the tsundere in the back. You have a guy who always sleeps, Xavier. So the doctor is Zane. The guy who always sleeps is Xavier, and he does something. I'm not his fan. I'm so sorry. Then you have the merman Raphael, who is my mama and my bias. I love him. We love him. We're gonna marry him in this house. And then they introduced a new character, a mafia boss, the Silus on the left. And the problem is everyone had a guy when they were 3, but when Silus came, a lot of people switched to Silus because he does a lot. You know why girls like mafia fanfics and stories?
No idea.
No, it's because he's like a dangerous guy who loves you and will give you all the cash. And one scene, he gives you the credit card and says, "Please don't disappoint me. Spend it all," or something like this. So it's amazing. I love him. I don't know why, but I didn't love him. I couldn't put I didn't want to flag your videos because the game is supposed to be family friendly 16, but it gets very giri a lot, and I don't know what to feel about this. But yeah, both games are in Japanese. You can have it in Chinese and Japanese. On the left, it's a new build that came out, and it's also quite fun. You can also have it in Japanese. And what's interesting, you also have gameplay. On the right, in Deep Space, it's like a shooter. You move the character and shoot. The one on the left, Noctilucent, it's you have characters and you put them and they fight for you and stuff. So it depends what you like. If you want a build that just started releasing Noctilucent, we barely had one event. And this page, start playing this space if you like cute guys. It's an interesting experience too. Have good gameplay, some story, but also the cards are amazing. I can show you my collection, but I don't want to.
We're running out of time, Alex.
Oh, sounds okay.
Yeah. On that note, so Hani, what's this one? Speaking of doctors and medicine, bad medicine, infectious teachers. What a name. Please.
Yeah. So on the topic of questionable taste, this is the kind of thing I'm into. So there's this company who does which does otome games called DJ, and they just make games with like rather unhinged characters, and I'm really into them. One such example is Diabolic Lovers. Wait a second, maybe I can show you.
I've heard you talk about this one a couple times. I think it was on Twitter.
Yeah, so that's with like crazy vampires, I guess. And this one is with crazy teachers. As I was playing this visual novel, I kept on thinking to myself like how they had this job, because they should have long been fired, but I really, really enjoyed it. Like, one thing I can say, though, is that it's not objectively good. Like, if you genuinely want to play something that's good, that's not where you should go. It's incredibly low budget. It's incredibly short. It's just genuinely, objectively not good. But it was my favorite VN of all time up until I read Shingaku. So, yeah, it's just the tropes that I love. It is just cheap, I guess, but that's what I'm into. I'm just into Does characters, you know? And those are like Does teachers, and they'll yell at you, and I enjoyed that.
All right, so moving on from these ladies' questionable taste. So maybe I'm learning that I have just basic taste, but this one's really popular as I didn't know it. I only recently heard about this one once it won some awards, and I was really surprised that it was winning new awards for most active readers when it's got 40 volumes out already. Or something like that. It's like a really high number of volumes. And so when I looked it up, like they opened up the trailer with this little shot down here of basically the author of Berserk recommending it. It's like, okay, if he's endorsing this one, it's like I pretty much got to read that. And watching a bit more of the trailer is like, this looks pretty good. And I mean, front cover, there's swords on it, so I mean, it's got to be good, right? So, anyways, a Berserk recommendation. For the guys, I'm planning on starting this one probably at some point within the next year. I don't know for sure, but it looks really good. It's one of those long epics. I really like just like series that have gone on for a long period of time that have a chance of wrapping up. And I think this one has it. And for it to be that consistent where it's still winning awards in like its 40th volume, that's pretty darn impressive. Are you guys familiar with this one at all?
I definitely know of it, but I've not read it myself yet. But I plan to.
Okay, we can read it together, huh?
Hot take.
Well, yeah, hot take. What's the hot take, Alex?
I read it in English.
Uh-oh.
And I couldn't continue because it was boring for me.
Too boring?
It's an amazing story. I'm so sorry.
I haven't read it. It very well might be boring.
I think I watched the anime. The problem is my friend really loved it, but I watched it and I was like, no, I'm sorry. It's a very good story. I cannot lie about it, but it doesn't appeal to me because it's not a thriller, it's not psychological. It doesn't push humans to their limits, literally. So it's a very good romance story, but I'm not in the headspace to enjoy normal stuff. I don't know how to feel about it.
I think we've established that.
I understand, yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Did you just watch the anime? Like you didn't read the manga or anything?
Yeah, I think I tried the manga. I don't remember. I know I watched the anime like half of it, and I couldn't watch it more. Also, I think anime I tried watching in Japanese, and that was when I was at the beginning when I didn't know a lot of Japanese and stuff.
Sure.
And I lost kind of interest in anime at that point, so it was a lot of combinations. But I hope you read it and you like it. Absolutely.
So when you're saying this, it does remind me of what's that one? The 12 Kingdoms, the LN series. It's like I read like the first LN and I was like, this is really good. And then I watched the anime. I was like, I quickly burned out on it. So I do wonder if maybe it might be one of those things where the source material is better, or maybe it's not. I don't know. Stay tuned and find out. Okay. Next one. I know you're a big fan of this one, Alex. What's this one?
So when the game was starting to release like promotional content, I looked at it and I was like, I'm going to learn Japanese. I'm going to read you. It was when I saw this, I was like, this is my goal. I won't wait for the English. I will learn Japanese and read it because I like the company who makes Sweet Pool. I love Sweet Pool. So it's made by the same company and it's very edgy. It's everything I want to see in a BL. So I'm very excited to read this one. I actually tried to read screenshots in VNDB and I was like, wait, this is not that hard. Wait, I'm trying to get motivated. I'm starting to get motivated right now. Wait. So if I start to have to find time to actually read it, I think I'm the position that I can read it and so on. So I'm so excited. Also, you shouldn't search for the figurine for this game.
You shouldn't search what?
So BL games, visual novels have limited figurines, some of them.
Mm.
And they are amazing. I appreciate what they do. I wish I could display it. I wish I could buy it and send it to Romania, but I don't want to get stuck because they check your packages and
Gonna get flagged.
Yeah, it might actually be flagged and they won't give it to me and so on, and it costs a lot of money. So also, I think I cannot buy it anymore. Is there, you know, the problems of being otaku, right?
I absolutely.
Yes.
I also will say this one's by what? Nitro plus Girol? Is that what the
Nitro System.
Yeah. I would say I really like normal Nitro plus stuff. So again, not so much the romance aspect, but just like the dark atmospheres. And so it seems like they have a lot of that with the BL side of the company too. That I haven't explored it yet, but might be cool to check out one day. Okay. Hani, would you like to explain to us why this guy is eating the other guy's tie? What's going on here?
Okay, so this Kichiko Megane, it is something that I started, but then I got into video games like Baldur's Gate, and then I stopped reading. But I still want to get back to it because I really enjoyed it. I managed to read one root of it. It's a BLVN, obviously, in an office setting, which I find to be very interesting because I've been reading a lot of otome games that were set in schools.
Right.
And that's cool and all, but it's really nice to see an office setting and also the office vocabulary that comes with it. It's super interesting. I'm actually enjoying it a lot. I thought maybe it'd be boring, but I really like learning these words, actually. So as the title implies, there's something interesting going on with this guy's glasses. So the protagonist is Katsuya, and that's his name. And when he puts on, like, he got these glasses from a very shady person on the street in the middle of the night. And when he puts these glasses on, he transforms completely into like the other guy in that cover.
Alex, did you just put your glasses on?
Like, it's still himself, but like he's now very, how do I say it? I mean, Kichiku, you know, he's like, he's much less shy. You know, he's actually really bad at his job because he's very shy and he's trying to sell products. You know, he works in management. But now that he wears like the glasses, he becomes a prodigy at the job. He's very direct and all of that. So I think it was really good, like what I read of it. And it's a story about, like, you know, wearing these, like, there's constantly situations where you're asked whether you want to put on your glasses or not. So you have to kind of try and strike a balance because if he wears it too often, he kind of loses himself a bit. So it's interesting, I guess. Yeah. That
sounds very interesting. Yes.
Yeah.
Alex, have you heard of this one? Go ahead. 18 plus?
Yeah.
So before I learned Japanese, not a lot of visual novels were translated. For example, this one. And I knew it because I looked at the CGs. So I could look at the CGs to understand what happens and everything. And the thing is, if you don't like classic BL, like 2000 something, you shouldn't read this.
Definitely, yeah.
Because
like, you
nowadays
BL
is much more refined.
Yeah.
So this is
like, you really need to love, like, the classic tropes that they were using back then, and not like this modern, you know.
What's the difference there? Like, what's the classic trope versus something that you're seeing in modern tropes there?
I would say, like, for example, the roles were much more rigid between, you know, like the top and the bottom, basically, or semi-uke. And by the way, there's also like Muriari in it, so non-con. It's just stuff like that. I don't know. Nowadays, a lot of BL is just much more like wholesome, first of all, and it's just I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah,
You need to throw the logic out the window.
yeah,
More the BL has more logic
yeah.
for what stuff happens. In here, you just throw away the logic and you just enjoy what happens, and you don't question anything. More than in my horror BL, okay? More than in my horror BL.
So with that, I think we've covered quite a bit of the josei-muke content. We had a couple more questions that we had. In fact, we have 45 of them still left from Lily. And apparently we're not going to be allowed to in the stream until we finish all of them. So that might be an exaggeration. We might have to pull out a few favorites here. So Alex, I'm going to go ahead and ask you, pull up at least one favorite that you want to answer from that. And then we'll start on a couple of these other questions as we do start to wind down our last handful of questions. I definitely want to answer at least something that Lily put in, but I'm sorry. There were so many. And a lot of good ones, and a lot of them that had depth that at our brain power level after streaming for 3 hours plus setting up for a long time, we might not be able to do it justice, at least right now. So let's pick out a couple to close up with. And before we get into the Lily questions, all-time favorites for josei-muke content. I know you've kind of already hinted at this, Hani, but go ahead. What's your all-time favorites?
Yeah, so my all-time favorite visual novel is definitely Shingako. I love it so much. It's great, and if you're into that type of stuff, then I highly recommend it. Yeah, but otherwise I also like just stuff that is not really objectively good, but is just fun for me to read, who like certain tropes, like the Diabolik Lover series, or Bad Medicine, or Arisu Arisu is another example of that. Yeah, stuff like that.
Okay. And Alex, what about you? Any all-time favorites that you've got?
All the 3 horror BL, Sweet Pool, Shingako, and Yenomachi. And for books, for sure, Heaven of Official Blessing. I love it. I hope it gets a drama so my mom can watch it, because she watched Odaozusu. She understands how good it is. So I hope this gets a drama so I can show it to my mama. Or I get disappointed again.
So one more question on the recommendation side of this. This one's also from my wife, Mrs. Katakana, in the Discord. Any good josei content you found that's not romance based? Does that even exist? Go ahead.
Yes.
Definitely it exists. One thing, although, well, to be fair, this one does have romance in it, but it is not the focus at all.
Okay.
Which is why I still would really highly recommend it. It is called Jack Jan. Wait a second, I actually have it as well. If I can find it, maybe.
These girls have their entire collections on deck. Impressive.
Yeah. So this one, as you can see, doesn't look very romance-like. And yeah, it is very interesting. And what's especially interesting about it is that it was written by, I'm sure a lot of you know, Ishida Sui, who wrote Tokyo Ghoul, and his older sister.
Really?
These are the two who wrote this visual novel. And Ishida Sui also illustrated it. So all the CGs, and there's really a lot of them, over 100, I believe, made by him. Looks awesome. He's one of my favorite artists, in fact. So I had a lot of fun reading that.
We've been reading Choji Next in the Manga Club, which is his new one. That's really fun. So, yeah. Does this one have a gameplay in it? Like, it's music based as well as like the VN aspect?
Yes. First of all, you have a scheduling that you need to do. So like various, you can practice since, you're at a music school, and you have performances every couple of months, and those performances play out as a rhythm game. So yeah, there's this rhythm game aspect, but you don't need to be particularly good at it. Like, you can just play on easy if you're not used to rhythm games, I guess. yeah, like most of it is definitely VN, but there's a bit of gameplay in it. But I liked it. I mean, I love rhythm games, in fact. So yeah.
So, Alex, are there any of Lily's questions that we can take now out of that? That extremely. First off, thank you, Lily. Those were really well done questions. We're not going to be able to do them justice today, that's for sure. In fact, even if we had 3 hours, I don't know that we would be able to do them justice just because there's so much to each one of them. But if we had to pick out a couple, Alex, you got one you want to start us with?
I'm trying because I could write my master's on this.
We kind of talked about that.
I wrote my thesis on otome games.
Did you really?
So I did. Also for the Japanese day, I wrote it about Kengakimi. And now I wrote it about Hakoki. And I actually tried to describe otome in why is this and why do you like it and certain features. So I actually did. I presented in front of a commission, so I did.
That's really impressive.
It was hard to try to explain what otome is and why it.
So, I guess, Hani, do you have any that I know you had a couple notes on these. Were there any that you wanted to pull out that we had been looking at?
Sure. For example, under character development, there was this question, what makes the protagonists in josei media stand out compared to other genres? And I would say something that I found very interesting to see is like, I mean, we talked about art style in general, but that also pertains to protagonists, in that protagonists in josei-muke media, they just look very cute, very, I don't know, they look great, you know, while in a lot of josei-muke, I feel like protagonists will look bland, like, not as an insult, I mean, they don't look bad or anything, but just more plain. I guess it's also a way to project yourself onto them more, which in fact I kind of think is nice because I do like inserting myself into these stories, but it also just kind of is nice to look nice. So I really understand the otome approach of it, to, you know, have these characters, you know, even if you cannot, you know, self-insert as well, to just have them look more unique.
Alex, last chance. Any that you particular want to close us out on as far as one of the Lily questions?
And there's so much. Okay, so let me pick this one. It states, quote, despite its origins, josei-muke media is gaining more global recognition. How do you think mainstream is shaping or diluting the authentic voice of the genre? Do you think the growing global interest in josei-muke media like otome is changing the way it's created or marketed? And it's very true, because I told you about this space. So the Dr. Zane, he has the power of ice, and I don't know if it was a fan concert, they made him sing Let It Go and so on. Also, they have people cosplay and just walk around, and it's amazing. You can hire someone, dress up your character, and just walk around like a billboard. Also, I don't know if you know the drama. There was a rapper in China that the people who like deep space and said, I don't remember, they said they are not really educated and so on. And the girls in China started posting their Harvard diplomas and then playing josei-muke and deep space. So I think there's also the theme of people who read romance. The girls who read romance are not really educated, but you have all these girls that went to Harvard and just enjoyed this genre. So at the same time, you get more good stories and stories that challenge a lot of stuff. For example, this space with their characters and everything, and how they present them in cards. That was never done before. But at the same time, people start hating because it's becoming more popular and it's become more visible in a sense. So I think it's going towards something that I like, with better characters, better stories, more appealing to us, because before everything was a crash grab, because we were really we were thirsty, for joseimuke. We wanted, but then people never delivered because everything was mostly dansemuke seinen because this is what is interesting for a lot of people. This is why I cannot watch BL anime because it's still not good animation. I don't feel it's that good. So, but nowadays we have a more shorter calling, and that's good. We have more BL drama coming, and they kind of get better. That's good. So we start having even more better stories. So I'm very excited for it.
One thing I'd also like to add about women who like love in deep space. I just read a couple of days ago that there was actually someone in the Olympics who is a fan of Love in Deep Space. I believe she was an Olympic weightlifter.
Wow.
And yeah, really cool.
Very interesting. So they're already among us, the josei-muke-enjoyers. And it seems like we've gotten quite a few recommendations from today. Thank you so much to both of you for sharing your stories about learning Japanese on this podcast. Definitely haven't done anything quite like this before. Boys Love Woods mentioned more time than all the other podcasts combined. So I guess in closing, where can people find you on the internet, Hani?
So you can find me on Instagram at honeyflower. But I just post art. So I'm not really someone who's prolific in the language learning community or anything like that. But if you'd like to check out my art, I guess you can find me there or in the Moe Discord server as well. Yeah.
Awesome. And as for you, Alex, where can people find you?
Mostly in the Moe Discord server. You can pick me in the club if there's anything you need.
Excellent. So, and in closing, this is the question we usually ask our guests. So, what's one piece of advice that you can give to others that want to reach what you've done with your Japanese? So, Hani, what would you say to somebody? One piece of advice.
I just say to be consistent, I was just consistent for, 2-3 years and then I stopped. But until then, I got really far and anyone can do it as long as you stay consistent. Unfortunately, that's advice that's said a lot. I don't feel like I'm contributing anything new, but it is true. It really needs to be said again and again because it is very true.
So real quick, just to dive into that, with the consistency that you're talking about over that period of time, how many general hours were you doing a day of this sort of content for that consistency?
Well, sometimes I was doing rather 1-2 hours. Other times I was doing 11-12 hours a day. Very often it was more around 3-4 on average.
Awesome. Okay, and same question to you, Alex. What's one piece of advice that you could give to others?
Power through the grammar guide, Anki decks, whatever. Just power through it and start reading. And also reading, listening in a sense. And mostly VNs because they have both. They have the reading part and the listening part at the same time, which I found amazing. So just power through the boring part and then start getting to the part that you like, the reading part and so on. And also find your niche that you like and just don't care and just obsess over it. Because you'll see that once you kind of understand what's going on and you have that niche, you're just going to stay 12 hours per day sometimes if you have the time.
Excellent. Well, thank you again so much to both of you for joining. As always, you guys can find me, KanjiEater, everywhere online. I'm on Twitter, but like I said, they're trying to filter me for some reason. I'm on YouTube, obviously, here. And then shout out to my own Discord server because it's been pretty active. We've had a manga club. We're probably going to expand that a little bit more. My wife's in there, but because she's basically the only girl, she gets outvoted on stuff a lot. So if any of the ladies would like to join a smaller, close-knit club, feel free to join us. With that being said, good luck to everybody on their Japanese studies. We'll be back again with another one probably by the end of the year. Looking forward to it. Thank you, everyone.